Good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. If you know of a veteran that is on TikTok, please share them this live. Share them this live. Share them this live. For us to welcome in. I wonder if I could use a better green screen. Let me see if they got a better green screen I can use. Is it this one? No, that's not it. I think it's this one. The one with the sticky. I'm trying to find the one with the sticky to kind of put that up. Is that possible? Good morning. Trying to figure out this sticky note. I'm trying to figure out these green screens real quick. I should have tried this before I got on. This is what I have to do for now, I guess. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in, welcome in. It's going to be a tough one, but it's going to be a good one at the same time, guys. So stick around. If you know of any veterans or any veteran spouses that are available, that are on TikTok, please share them out the live. Good morning, Coach Tanya B. I see you. I see you. I see you. What's going on, Harmony? Guys, see you, brother, man. We're going to try this again. Guys, we're going to try this again. We're going to try this again. We're going to make it happen. Welcome in, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. If y'all can, please share the live out. Share the live out. Share the live out. This is gonna be one of those. This is gonna be one of those. A lot to talk about. Today we're all here to learn. Today we're all here to learn. Today we're not here to be the coaches. In regards to this, we are here to learn. We are here to gather some necessary information, and I got you. I got you. There you go. Let me fix this layout real quick. So this time around, it's not just gonna be the coaches up here. If you are a veteran, if you know of any veterans, um, please share them live. I know we usually do the coaches hours between 9 and 10:30, but this time around that's not the case. That's not gonna be. So my brother here is also a veteran, and there's a few other veterans that should be coming through. Venus is also a veteran. Um, Veterans, active military spouses, absolutely.
Don't forget about me.
I didn't forget. I didn't forget.
Nobody,
So,
nobody.
Coach, if you know a few of them, please share it out to them.
They're already here.
You know what I'm saying? It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting conversation to have because we've tried this before, just to be truly transparent, and didn't go so well. It didn't go so well. And that's more so I guess we could take accountability for that because we didn't have the structure that was really needed for it.
Well, it wasn't set up for that. It turned into that.
Right.
So
So
it's all good.
it's all good. So if y'all can, please share out the live. Keep tapping the screen. I don't really have a light goal for this. I really just want everybody to just listen and to learn this time around because we're all here to do that. We're all here to do that. So, oof. If y'all can, please rate y'all into 1 to 10. One being the worst, 10 being the best. We have 45 people in here. If you guys can, please rate your mental. Let me know how y'all feeling coming in on this Saturday morning. Welcome, LT. I see you. 25. Learn from the experience and try again. Absolutely. 8.5. I see a lot of 10s. I see a 25. I love the 25. Whew, 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 whew. My brother. I see you. I see you, Joseph. I see you. I see you. Yes, absolutely. Um, I want to start off with my brother because that's not really something that we've ever actually had a conversation about. His military background. We never really had a conversation about that. In all the years that we've known each other, honestly, we've never had that conversation. So let me ask you, Hormiga, how do you feel about having this conversation, having this live? Truthfully, Hamika, I see you in the chat. I see you. I see you.
Right now, I'm happy that I'm comfortable having this conversation, but not so long ago, it might not have been the case. I
Right.
went I went through a lot, man, in my experiences. Like
Right.
it's borderline hilarious, but not just hilarious, very serious at the same time. So it kind of causes a disconnect because the only way that I could get through explaining it is by making people laugh.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, laughter is usually the best cure, right? For most. J&J, I see you.
That's what they say, man. It's just not always the case. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And so we're gonna try to keep it as light, but it is the questions that I do have, the things that I do had prepared for this. Hormiga don't even know about it because I feel like if I would have told him about it, he would have tried to overly prepare. And since he is a veteran, I wanted to be as true and transparent without him seeing the questions. So I didn't send it to him just because I know he is a veteran. So since he's currently the only one up here, I guess I can ask him the questions just to start off, right?
We can
Um,
start. We can start.
what motivated you to join the military?
My son's mother was pregnant. She was we I found out that she was about to have my child, and I didn't have a pot to piss in. I didn't have any benefits. I didn't have anything to offer. So I felt like the best course of action is to go into a place that offers you further education, offers you housing, and will also take your family and set it up so that when you finish your basic training and your AIG, which is the training that comes after your specialty,
Hmm.
then once you land in a specific spot after you do your two trainings, you know, they can set it up where she could be there waiting for you, wherever it is that they're going to place you. And at that point, we were supposed to meet up in Fort Hood, Texas, and that never happened.
Right.
So yeah. What was the question again?
What motivated you to join the military?
That's what motivated me to join the military. Is because it was a quick fix. It was a quick fix. It was kind of a no brainer because I didn't see any way of being a provider or setting this situation up so that we could be together.
Right. And if you are a veteran and you are in the chat and you feel comfortable having this conversation, please just shoot a send a request. My moderators will get you up here. This space is for you guys today. This space is for you guys today. This is for us to learn more about just the dynamics of, you know, your military, your military background, what started you to want to join the military, what effects did it have on you, just making that type of decision, you know what I'm saying? Just all of it. We're trying to learn. My brother was in the military, he was in the Army and the Navy. I seen the goods and bads of him coming home after the fact, and it was always something that I was curious about. But he's never willing to have that conversation, so I've never learned.
Yeah. You don't come back as the same person. You either become better or you become unrecognizable.
Right, right. So, um, in regards to like preparing yourself, right? After you made the decision to go, you went through the process. Like, where was your head at outside of wanting to support your family? Like, where was your head at? Like, how did you prepare yourself for that?
Um, I wasn't prepared at all. Even though it's funny because even though I kind
Okay.
of knew what I was gonna go through because
Mhm.
the movies are not so far from accuracy, believe it or not. The movies that you see about basic training and what they do and how they do it, they're pretty accurate. What I wish I would have done was a lot more exercise before I went over there. I,
Okay.
I wish that I would have stopped drinking soda before I went over there because I had the jitters from the sugar inside my body.
But
Um, I wish that I would have talked to someone who has the experience, so that they can guide me as to where my mindset and my discipline levels have to be in so that I could be successful. Otherwise, I was going to have the hard time that I had when we first started. There's a lot of things that you can do. That's why I always recommend that if you want to be a military man, go to ROTC. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
Go.
that's a good start.
It's a great start
It's a great
because
start.
you,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like becoming a DJ, right? If you don't have rhythm, you know what I'm saying? There's some things that you really can't teach. Like if you got two left feet, you understand what I'm saying? Then you're gonna have a hard time being a dancer if you try to learn with those two left feet.
hmm
If you don't have rhythm, so in the case of the armed forces, if you don't know cadence, if you don't understand exercise, if you're a lazy person, if you're not a morning person, like I'm talking about morning person, like they get up way before the sun comes up.
I don't know who
If
Grace
you don't know how
Martin's.
to eat fast, if you don't know how to make quick decisions, if you're not a neat person, you're gonna be all those things because they're gonna look at all your weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna exploit them.
Right, right. And okay, so kind of take us through, your journey once you were there. Like, I know there's things that you can't speak on or you're not able to speak on, right? But if you can, in a sense, kind of take us through your journey in regards to like once you were finally away, like you finally made it over there, and
You mean
you
once we was on that plane?
right, like once you on that plane, you know that you wasn't coming back anytime soon, type
Well,
thing. Like, how
yeah.
was that? How was
First,
that transition?
I'll tell you this. This is how it started. You know, you get everybody there. They have their bags, right? Everybody has this big bag. Some people have big suitcases. Some
Hmm.
people have a whole lot of stuff for nothing. Whatever you bring, you will not see again. It goes into a big closet. There's no phones. There's no there's no anything. You know, like if you chew tobacco, there's none of that stuff. If you smoke cigarettes, there's none of that stuff. If everything, everything, you only get to keep a couple of mini toiletries and maybe your wallet.
Hmm.
But a lot of people bring a whole bunch of suitcases and they don't get to see their clothes until after basic training. Basic training can last anywhere between 8 and 10 or 11 weeks, depending on how it's structured.
Right.
So you know, and you don't get any phone calls. Like, I mean, at least when I was there, I was there. You know, I started there in 88, 89, and it was fine. It was fine in the beginning, right, on the airplane right there, because you know you get to recognize everyone.
Right.
And as soon as you get off that bus, as soon as you get off the plane, you get into a bus. It kind of feels like you're going to the county. I want to put that out there that there's very a lot of similarities between the education system, getting locked up and going to the penitentiary, and going to basic training.
Hmm.
It kind of feels the same. And you meet some good people, right? In the beginning on the plane, even before the plane, you know, you meet some people. Hey, how you doing? You know, are you excited? Some people are excited. You could tell the people that want to be there and don't want to be there, right? First,
Right.
off top, and then you recognize people, and you start talking to people on the plane and on the bus, and as soon as you get off the bus, they start screaming at you. We ain't playing with you. Let's go. You know, like. And then the funniest thing is that once everybody starts getting haircuts, my brother,
Hmm.
you don't recognize nobody because everybody got the same haircut.
Everybody looks the same.
Everybody looks the same. The only thing that the only difference is size, like height, and
Hmm.
and color of skin and color of eyes.
Right.
That's the only thing that you could recognize. Everybody came out of there with a crew cut. I couldn't find the people that I was cool with, so I immediately already felt displaced with the new connections that I made immediately.
Do you feel like them doing that is more of a mental thing than anything? Kind of trying to reset, trying to kind of remove the civilization, the civil aspect of it all, right? Trying to be a civilian, because obviously you have to retrain your brain, because while you're there, you're not a civilian.
It's part of it. A lot of the military is mental. A huge percentage of military training and adapting to it is mental. And
Hmm.
I'll give it to them. They they don't really deal with your mental. They try to condition you right away.
Right.
It's not like they asking you questions. You know how you feel. They don't really care how you feel. They're just seeing. You know, they're also trying to evaluate who are the ones that are going to need extra help, who are the ones that are not going to make it,
Hmm.
who are the ones that are instantly they know who the leaders supposedly are.
Hmm.
Like, you know, you have platoon guides. Platoon guides are people that are in the head, you know, like they become like foremen or supervisors. So right away they start exercising rank.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you get three sergeants. You know, one is the main sergeant, then you have the assistant sergeant, and then if you are unlucky like me, the other sergeant is the actual platoon drill sergeant.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and he was Hispanic.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. So he played no games.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the assistant African American lady that that she was the one that I was worried about.
Mhm.
She was very like in your face, you
Okay.
know. So
All right. I got a couple more questions for you, but I'm gonna hear from J&J.
absolutely,
Um, appreciate you giving us that because a lot of us don't really know. the things that you guys go through.
It's a
And
quick transition. It's a quick transition.
it is, it is. It's not really spoken of. Um, it's not really much articles about it. You don't really see anything on the internet about it, really, unless somebody's vocalizing it, right? And even when that happens, it's debunked as soon as possible. Because once they
Right.
see something like that on the internet, they don't want that to be. They don't want none of that to be spoken of. So I appreciate that. Um, J and J, welcome in. Welcome in. It's been a while. How you feeling?
I'm doing all right this morning, and shalom to everybody.
Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Morning.
Appreciate you for coming in. I appreciate you and thank you for your support. Thank you for your service, Hormiga. Thank you for your service.
Mhm.
So same question. What motivated you to join the military?
For me, it was family. I had a lot of family that was in. My stepdad, my father, my godfather, some of my uncles on both sides of my family. And then too, like I didn't really have like a clear path after high school.
Hmm.
So like I immediately joined right after high school. Like it wasn't like for me there wasn't really like a clear option for like college.
Right,
I also moved around a lot, so I did a lot of ROTC. So it was like something that I knew. So it was just like a easy choice, I guess, to just be like, well, I'll just go into the military.
right. Yeah, so you was already prepared for that transition, even if it wasn't a decision, because you're already
Well,
in the ROTC.
okay, so how I transitioned to it, I really think that the best way that I can explain it was just being in a politically correct after African American household, right? So
Hmm.
I already grew up with strict rules. I already grew up with very like high stressful situations with my parents because like my dad was very like 0 to 100 because he was in the military and
Hmm.
the way that he handled things. So like for me, the mental aspect of it was already there. It
Yeah.
was just more of like getting physically ready
Right.
for it. So I think that was it. It's like because I already like at a young age I already knew how to compartmentalize things, and I don't
Hmm.
think it's necessarily like a good thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing either. Just because like I moved, I went to 4 different high schools in two different states, and I didn't graduate the high school that I started at. So I was like half my ninth grade year was in Texas, the other half in Virginia. Then I went to another school in Virginia for 2 years. Then I went back to Texas and graduated at another school, and so like I was already good at compartmentalizing and dealing with stressful situations.
Okay. Gotcha. So kind of like the same concept, same question I've had asked Formiga. How was the transition? Like, so you already made it. Yours already like you're already a part of that family, that lifestyle of the military, having a military dad, stepdad. You know what I'm saying? And doing the ROTC. So you were well prepared to mentally, like you said, in regards to kind of jumping into the military. Kind of give us the other aspect. How was the transition once you knew that you were on that plane and you weren't going to be near family for a while, like for the basic training? How was that transition for you?
So the transition for me, it was still kind of like it's still a hard learning curve, even if you're prepared or not, because you never know exactly how it's gonna be. Um, every drill sergeant is different, and everybody's experience is different because of the way that they deal with it. Like Brother Homingo was saying, like they kind of already know and have a way of how they deal with certain people and certain type of personalities. So for me, like getting there and knowing that I'm not going to be coming home for a while, it was a little hard at first because I was used to having that comfort, that backdrop. So me finally being on my own, it was like, okay, well, I just got to be a stand in it, and that was a transition in itself, and not allowing myself to fold, and knowing like I this is what I chose to do, and this is what I'm gonna have to do, and I'm gonna have to stand in it. That's the best way that I can put it. Dealing with how the drill sergeants deal with you like that. That took a little adjusting to like at first because like I said, it's a different level of stress that they put on you. So it's a lot of mental mind games. along with like a lot of physical mind games as well, because you get put in a lot of situations that you got to get used to being put in the situations that you don't have control over, especially when
Mhm.
somebody else gets in trouble and like now everybody's in trouble. And the drill sergeant's going from 0 to 200 in 2.5 seconds because somebody messed up. It's like, well, I ain't had nothing to do with me, but now I'm getting in trouble for it. So like,
Yeah.
learning that mental discipline of like, okay, I just got to make it through. I got to be able to continue to push. I got to understand what they're trying to instill in me because they're trying to strip you down. They're trying to break you down. They want you to get to your lowest point so they can build you back up.
Kind of retrain your brain a little bit or a
Yeah.
lot.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So both questions for both of you, right? Um, and anybody that's ready to come up. Um, I'm trying to word this correctly. In the psychological aspect of it, in regards to your basic training, I know you kind of spoke on it, J&J, a little bit. Um, what was that impact like for you guys? Um, in regards to basic training, like what was that psychological level of it? Like, how did that really hit you, or how did you deal with that?
You gotta define that question, and I'm sure Jay would agree. You got to define that question a little bit better because you go through different mental situations during the course. When you first get there, when you in the middle of basic training, at the end of basic training, going into your specialty, graduating from that, and then right from there, you can go straight into a situation. Right
Right.
now, this all has to do with what are you actually doing in the armed service? Are you in the front line, infantry? Do you have a specialty? Rank has a lot to do with it. How much education you have before you go into it. So that question has to be defined because, like what Jay said, they strip you down so they can make everybody as common as possible. But here's the thing: I grew up in the hood, so I had the hood mentality.
Yeah.
They didn't know I had that hood mentality because of what I look like.
Hmm.
I got light eyes. I'm light skinned. Don't worry about this guy. He's gonna be a scholar. I wasn't having it. I wasn't really a disciplined youngster.
Yeah.
That was a problem because they recognized that right away and they put extra emphasis on and they might use you as an example. So again, that question is loaded because there's 5 different ways that it could affect a person. A person's background is very important before you get in there. The color of your skin is also, and that's the one that they don't talk about. But what they do is try to create a unity, right? They try to make it seem like everybody ain't shit.
Right.
So it's universal when it comes to what they're trying to do to everybody.
Hmm.
But where you come from, your ideals, your morals, the way you was brought up at home, if you was a street kid, right? If you was a knucklehead, you know, it's a culture shock for about 70% of the people that go in there because most of the people that go in there is because they don't have no other way to go.
I,
So
I appreciate that. I appreciate
I
that.
want Jay to talk about that.
J&J, whenever you're ready, I know you're on teacup right now.
Oh, okay.
So if y'all can, keep please tap on the screen. If you are are a vet, active service, um, please definitely and retired, please come up. Um, this space is your guy. This space is for you guys today. Nobody else. We're gonna talk about the family dynamics. So that's gonna be the space for the spouses to kind of come up and kind of speak on their experience with not having their their significant other or their family member there. So
I got the
it is for you
presentation
guys.
for you.
I, so I'm gonna speak to it from 2 different aspects because I'm, I'm probably one of the few that had to do basic training twice because I was in two different branches, and
Okay.
and the way that and the way that I had to go through it. So I was Air Force first. Um, so when I was in the Air Force basic, right? Like Kaminga said, like it's kind of hard to define that question because, or answer that question because like there's different aspects of how the drill sergeants interact with people, and
Hmm.
and it's like they go through phases. So usually they find someone like he said that they make an example out of, or they find two or three people that they make the example out of in different ways. So they'll find somebody that they want to uplift into like a leadership position and make an
Hmm.
example with them. And it doesn't necessarily always be a good or a bad example. It just depends on how they want to deal with the situation. And then they also have the people that they want to use as the bad example to kind of rally the troops behind, like, hey, we need to make sure that this person's squared away because if they keep messing up, we have to deal with it in some way, shape, or form,
Right.
right? So it's really hard to speak on because, like, again, your drill sergeants are different in how they handle situations. Some of them handle them more aggressive. Some of them don't handle it as aggressive, but they deal with it more of like on a physical aspect. Like, okay, here's a problem. Y'all are just gonna be physically strong, so y'all are gonna be working out all day. Like anytime somebody mess up, y'all working out. Y'all doing push ups. Y'all doing sit ups. Y'all doing whatever it is that I deem fit. And some of it can be like overly excessive. Some of it can't. Other aspect of it is like they just play mental mind games with you. I'll give you a short example. There's this thing that we used to do called changing drills, right? Changing drills was everybody get on the line. I know somebody messed up, so I'm yelling at everybody. Y'all have 5 seconds to change from full dress uniform to PTs, and they'll just leave. They'll come back in. If somebody did not make it in time, all right, y'all working out. Y'all gonna do these push ups, sit ups, whatever the case might be. All right, once I'm done with that, all right, mentally, y'all have 15 seconds to change to another uniform, which is completely opposite. So, like, full dress uniform would be like your battle gear, where it's like the top, bottom, the brown shirt, and everything had to be right. Like, if you tried to shorten it or if you tried to cut corners, like they know. So, but
Right.
there's no way that somebody made it in that time frame because they give you unrealistic goals and just to play with you mentally. So it's like there's different ways that they go about it. Now, the second aspect that I was going to talk about. So when I went through basic training the second time, so transferring from the Air Force to the Army, I got picked on way more. Why? Because the Air Force is the little brother of the Army, and I already
Hmm.
had experience. So every drill sergeant was on my head from the moment that I landed in and went to basic. Even though I had more rank than everybody, they still was on my heels the whole time. And I was in basic training longer the second time. So the first time I think I went for like 8 weeks. The second time my basic training was 16 weeks because I was in a combat job. So they loaded basic training and my job training all into one. So I didn't get a break like other jobs where you go from basic training with drill sergeants to your job school where you have cadres which are more laid back, not as aggressive. Like it was a whole 16 weeks of me just being around drill sergeants, and it was highly aggressive the whole time.
Right.
So like it's a very like, and Herminga could probably speak on that too. It's like it's very different aspects when you deal with different things and how drill sergeants deal with it. But yeah, me going from the Air Force to the Army, like my experience was way different because they, for one, expected more out of me because I had been in the military longer, and two, it was like oh, you coming from the little brother, so you really gonna have to show who you are compared to everybody else. So I was put into way more positions, doing way more things, and the spotlight was on me way more, and it was just more mental and physical all at the same time because it's like I had to practice not being as frustrated and not showing it because of how much the light was on me, and I'm like, man, I'm just trying to like I'm just trying to be like everybody else. I just want to graduate basic and go about my business. The only reason I got to do this is because the guidelines that they were set before me, like, hey, you have to go through basic again, coming from another branch, and I'm like,
Right.
that sucks for me because I'm already, you know, E4, E5. You know what I'm saying? So like I've already put in the time. And basic training is really for people who's really coming in to be broken down. So like that was a whole nother aspect of it too. So like, man,
Listen, I know you're gonna talk about PTSD, right? I know you're gonna talk about that. So,
I'm gonna dive into it, yeah, in a little bit.
but I will set the tone for that now by saying that that starts very early because as a man, you're not allowed to show your emotions. You're supposed to learn how to suppress your emotions as a man. As a man, you are not allowed to express your emotions. You will be considered weak from the beginning, from basic training. They teach you how to stand. They teach you how to walk. They teach you how to talk. They teach you how to think. As a matter of fact, let me take that back. There's really no thinking involved. It's more about reaction. It's more about automation. It's more about uniform. It's all about teamwork. It's all about learning how to trust your fellow brother. So they do create a brothership because there's some people that to this day I still be in contact with, right? And we're going to be brothers forever. But that's where the PTSD really starts is where, for men, where they teach you how to bypass your emotions. It's not something that you work with, right? It's not something that they teach you how to work with. They just teach you how to eliminate it, period.
right? I can double down on that. Like they really don't give the military doesn't give a space for proper mental health because what they're worried about is can you hold a rifle? Can you deploy? Okay, that's all we need from you. Can you operate in your job and do it under a stressful environment? Because that's what basic is for. Putting you in high stressful situations to where you have the muscle memory on how to do the most basic of tasks the military needs you to do. Right? So they instill that in you early. Like we don't care about your breakdowns. We don't care about what you got going on. I didn't assign you a wife or a child. I did like, and these are things we heard. I'm sure Haminga can could attest that. Like these are things we've heard. Like we didn't assign you a wife or child, so all we care about is go over here and do this. We didn't we didn't do we didn't give you X Y Z. Look, I just want you to be able to do this. So even when you start having these moments and you want to speak about it, it can look bad. Like it can make it to where you can't promote or you can't move into certain positions because then they're gonna label you a certain way and they're gonna put you in places where it's like, and that's a part of leadership. They just do these things.
The psychic evaluation, right? When you first get tested, right? They do, yeah, before you even get in, they do this basic physical, right? Make sure that you can pick up a little bag of something and you can bend and you can do certain mobilities, right? And they have this very quick a couple of mental questions. You could be already marked without knowing because they don't show you the evaluation, right? You could be marked already having this in your file or your profile so that when you get into basic training, the drill sergeants sit down and have a conversation before they start the next day or before you even show up. They already sat down and had a briefing about what's the next group of people that are coming in, and they have the receipts.
Mm-hmm.
Those receipts are so inaccurate because in order to get to know someone, in order to see where a person functions, you can't do that in a 5-minute conversation.
Right.
And it all depends on how you felt that day. So they don't do enough evaluation. Just like we say that they don't do enough psychological background check or psychological evaluations for the police officers.
Mm-hmm.
It's even faster over there.
Wow.
Jay, am I lying, Jay? It's like, hey, how you doing? How you feel? What would you do in this situation? And you're like, blah, 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 blah. And you don't even know that you're writing your own path.
That it is so true. And it's so true. They don't do enough on there because some of the people that they think would make it through basic training don't
Mm-hmm.
because they just fold because they're not used to it. Like I've seen the most like Haminga was saying, like they don't really know people's background, right? So I've seen people where you would think that they'd be like, oh, they'd be really good for this because you can just see how they're built. and I seen them break down and be like, okay, I'm quitting, I'm going home. But some of the people that the drill sergeant be looking at, like, man, I thought he would have. You'll hear from drill sergeants at the end of your basic training because they get cooler towards the end of your basic training. They actually become like normal people because we got to understand they're doing a job. They're trained to do this job and they're trained to be the way they are. But once you get closer to graduating and actually being a part of the army or whatever branch you are, they actually become more like real people, and you hear more from them, right? And some of the times they'll be like, man, I didn't think that this person would make it through. Like I couldn't see it because I thought that they would have dropped out like week 2 when we're going through what they call hell week. Where
Right.
they're waking us up at 2 o'clock in the morning, doing PT, doing all these things, and then backing out, and then getting this little sleep deprivation, like you get a little sleep and all these things. Like then there's people that they'll be like, oh yeah, that person just dropped out, and I didn't think they would. They should have made it.
He's talking about time management, man. They teach you how to do things fast, bro. Like if everybody listening does not know about the military life, they teach you how to do things fast and accurate, right? And you will, and the way they teach it is that you will pay the price. Like he said, if somebody in your team does something rough, if they're late, if they say the wrong thing, if their bed isn't tight, if they're not in formation on time, if chow time, if you're talking and they're looking at you, if you're talking and you are the type that you're a talker and they see that you are a distraction, they will let it be known. Like they will pick on you and show you what happens. They'll come up with the craziest examples. Like when they'll say something like, "Listen, when you're in the middle of war or when you're in the middle of a situation, are you going to be talking shit or are you going to be protecting your people?" You understand what I'm saying? Are you going to be focused on what you need to do? Because it's a unit and everybody has their own task, right?
Right.
So that's why they teach you this, because all it takes is one person to distract everybody else and everybody is gone.
Whew.
Venus, welcome in.
Please welcome in.
I'll drop down for a moment. I'll be back.
All right, not a problem.
Please come back.
Please come
Peace,
back.
love. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am.
Hey, hey, hey. Blissful rise.
We here. We here.
I'm actually feeling the tightness in my chest right now.
It's a lot. We knew what this was gonna be when we tried this again. We've had multiple conversations about it throughout the months before we actually made this happen. So I'm not looking back. We're gonna keep pushing forward. We're gonna keep pushing forward. Sierra, are you a veteran as well? I didn't know if you were a vet or not. If you are, just let us know. If you are a vet, please let us know that you are in the chat so that way we can bring you up. That'd probably be the best way to do it, so that way we know to bring you up.
Let's see who's a veteran in the chat and who has been a spouse to a veteran too. Who has been a veteran and who has been a spouse to a veteran, because that is a huge aspect of it.
And we're actually hosting a live next Saturday for the families. Next Saturday is going to be for the families, for the people that are spouses of people that are in the military. That whole next Saturday is going to be all for you guys to kind of come and speak on your experiences with having somebody that's in the as a veteran and that's active in the military.
Spouse and a mother. Look, Frosty said a spouse and a mother. Ooh.
Spouse and a mother. I was a spouse. Okay. So yeah, I'll make sure I create a live event this time around for the next one. I know I didn't make one for this one.
Gene was a spouse. Look,
Yep. I got you guys. Hold me accountable, please.
I'm gonna write it down actually.
Thank you. Venus, sis.
Yes.
Question for you, just like I asked Tommy again and then J&J. What motivated you to join the military?
Pardon me. So at the time, I was a hairstylist. I was just getting started in the hair craft, and I had 3 children by this time. I was legally married, but also legally separated. And when I had my youngest son, I knew that I had to make a plan for better security. So those of us who know any hairstylist, cosmetologist, it can be very demanding on time, especially when you're just getting started. And one thing I was always against is sacrificing the most valuable moments and time spent with my children, especially when they were young, because they were all very young, for a dollar. So that's never been me. So I said, you know what? I started doing my research with the military, and I weighed all of the pros against the cons, and I said, this is the best decision for me. So that was one of the main reasons why I joined, for financial security, the benefits, the health benefits, all of these different things. Outside of that, at the time, it was something that I also wanted to do. Um, I still think that doing certain things, even though there are a lot of variables surrounded by it, for me, it was very honorable
Okay.
at the time, for various of reasons. So the main two reasons I joined the military was for security and because it was just honorable.
Venus, real quick, can you explain the security part? Because that could go a couple of different ways.
Well, for, growing up fast, we had jobs at 13, 14, the summer jobs and stuff. Back then, you didn't have to be 18. We had a lot, every summer, we had a summer job. So
Right.
I knew that I knew that I needed money. And becoming a young mom, I knew that I needed security in my money, especially having children. And so, me working in a secular world for years, I knew that there wasn't much financial security because even though you're a number in the military, it's the same for working in a secular world. The difference is, um, it's more stable and it's more secure when you're working for the government, right? Um, your job can kind of release you. Secular jobs can kind of release you whenever they want to for whatever reason. But working for the government is very different. They cannot just like, I don't want to see you today. You're not working to your fullest potential. So for me, it was a win-win situation. Do I work for the secular industry, or do I work for, the government that is going to provide me with more security for me and my children? So it was an easy decision for me. I would rather work for the government than work for a secular job, especially when you get into what do they call 401ks and pensions and savings and all of the financial benefits. Like, I got paid and I had all of my bills paid.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad you explained that because I people need to understand the different types of securities that there are: financial, placement, experience versus working in a regular 9 to 5. Like, people need to understand this. I'm glad you did that, baby.
Yeah. I know my brother. We've kind of spoken about it because I've noticed too that they taught him a lot.
Hmm.
Like I'm talking about like real life things like being an electrician and like
Yeah.
doing these things like that like in the military. I'm like I because I've never seen him go to school for it, right? But he knew how to rewire a whole house. I'm just like, how? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen you take any classes for it. I've never seen you read any books about it. And me and my brother were close at that time. So it was just like, I've never seen him do any of this stuff. So it was just like watching him rewire a whole house. I was just like, did you learn that in the military? Because, like, I've never seen you ever do anything of the sort. He was like, so he was like, yeah, he said, I learned how to do that. He said, I worked on tanks. He said, I worked on like high end, like big vehicles, like big military vehicles, rewiring them and putting them together and taking them apart. And I did all that. I was like,
There's a lot of advantages. There are a lot of benefits, depending on, the soldier, even the NCOs, depending on whatever the person, whoever it is, whether they are a commissioned officer or a soldier coming in, there are infinite amount of benefits, trades, skills that you can learn without coming out of your pocket. So I won't necessarily say it's free because there's always an exchange. There's always going to be something you have to give in order to receive. However, when you think about the secular industry, when you need to learn a skill or learn a trade, you're paying anywhere from thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where in the military, it's like, oh, you want to do this? Let me teach you this. Let me teach you that. And if you want to further your career, they'll pay for schooling
Right.
during and after. So the benefits are astronomical.
Right. So, same question to Hormiga and J. That transition, especially being the fact that you are a mother, right? You are a mother. You were a mother of three at the time. What was that transition looking like for you? Leaving,
Transitioning out of or
transition going into basic training. Dealing with dealing with the leaving your children behind, and
well, that part was challenging because of course, well, in the beginning it wasn't such a challenge. It wasn't until I experienced some kind of cognitive dissonance until I had to deploy. But in the beginning, I knew that once my basic training was up, my children were going to be with me. And so I was a cook in the military. I was a 92G. So I knew that one, my schooling wasn't a long time. And as soon as I finished, my children would be with me.
right,
It was a beautiful, phenomenal, fun. I actually loved it. I loved every bit of the transition. I mean, the first day was a little rocky because I'm like, what did I get myself into? Because I was more mature. I wasn't 17, 18 when I joined. I was in my late 20s. So by this time I was a mother. I already had a career, so to speak. I've already done a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? The streets, just like Omega and Amit, like I was already aware and prepared with a lot of skills. So it wasn't fear, it wasn't scarcity. It was like, oh, this is dope. And this may come off the not so nice way. But I was like, oh, okay, pew pew's illegal. I can work around with the pew pews. I got a gun range. It's like, oh, this is good. This is gonna be great. I ain't gonna get in trouble. So I was looking forward to learning all of those things, all of the skills. So it was fun for me. It was absolutely fun for me.
okay. I love that. I love that. I love the different dynamics, right? Because it's like we don't know the stories behind it. Some people
Yeah.
they make it they show the struggles that they dealt with going into basic training. Especially if you wasn't prepared physically, like Omega said, if you wasn't prepared mentally,
Yeah.
um, and then here you with the different dynamic, it was just like you were already you had the mindset of wanting to experience it, like to see to kind of go in there with the positive experience of it, because you've seen the benefits of what came with all of it. So I like that. I like seeing that because it's like
Yeah, it's
I
a
don't want
different.
everybody to think all of it is bad.
Yeah, when you're it's a difference. I know there's a lot of variables,
Hmm.
but typically when the younger people go in, they don't really have an inkling of a clue as to really what they want to do. They don't have a lot of experiences. So for a soldier like me entering into the military, it's like I'm already mature. I have children. I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I done ripped and ran the streets. I was hustling. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was doing a lot of stuff. So mentally, that gave me an advantage
Right.
in dealing with people versus the young person. It can be quite scary. But it all depends. But I wouldn't claim to all of the it was just a wonderful experience for me. I don't want to discount anyone else's experience because it always is what it is to them. However, it was an extremely excited, fascinating experience for me.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about doing this live is because there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
And
I don't want nobody to get the wrong impression, right?
yeah, there's no right or wrong answer in anything that's being spoken of. Your truth is your truth, and your experience is your experience.
Yeah, and if you can get by the initial hardships, right? If you can get by, then there is not even a window of opportunity in the armed forces. There's a world of opportunity and great benefits if you can get by. It's the big major factor here, okay?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because remember, I told you
They
that.
will definitely try you. And, whether we know it or not, is politics. The armed forces is politics. The armed forces culture is big on discipline. I would say integrity, but that's not true. True for some. But their culture, they're big on discipline. Among all of the other factors, the respect, you know what I'm saying? There's a percentage of respect and integrity and loyalty. But the highest percentage of one main factor is that they are huge on discipline. And so they will try you, because one thing I notice is that they're always looking for leaders. They're always looking for trendsetters. They're always looking for strong-willed, minded individuals.
Hmm. So, I know J&J and Hormiga spoke about them kind of breaking the civilian aspect down, right? And kind of trying to just transition you into just being a soldier. How was that transition for you?
I got in trouble a lot. I got
Okay.
in trouble a lot. I understood what they was doing
Hmm.
because I was more mature in my experiences in life.
Right.
So it took me time to understand the chain of command. It took me
Mm,
time to understand that, Venus, just because you have three children doesn't mean that they are your children. It took me time to learn the disciplinarian practices. And so for me, and there were a lot of younger NCOs and commissioners over me
hmm.
that in many cases used to be in my face, and me being who I am, like, hold on. Like, damn all the military, damn the soldier, damn the rank. You gonna talk to me with respect, or we just going it's gonna be what it is. I'm gonna either beat my face or I'm gonna go tell on you. So it was it like I said, it was still fun for me. Sometimes it was frustrating. However, because I stood my ground, I was fast tracked twice within a year and a half. So it may have appeared to be, oh gosh, she's disrespectful and she's this and she that. But however, there were NCOs who also seen leadership qualities. They
Right.
also seen that I was, strong minded, and it's like, hey, this is what it's gonna be. I'm not gonna lower my standards. You're gonna give me the same respect that I give you. And so I was rebellious in a sense where you just wasn't gonna get away with doing what you do, abusing your authority at the time simply because.
Right.
And so I also got a lot of respect for that. So the so-called breaking of the civilian into the soldier, I really didn't experience much of that. In a sense, when we hear other soldiers' stories, I didn't. I was that I was a so I held my own.
She said that Brooklyn stayed in me no matter what.
Listen, I got in trouble a lot. He's like, beat your face. I'm like, I don't have a problem with that. Sure, it's just going to increase my PT score.
I love it. I love it. So
Trouble.
I know we kind of spoke on the psychological impact that training had on on soldiers and people coming in. Um, just to kind of reword that question for you, because I feel like just because you've had such a strong you had such a strong just energy just coming in there, and you maintain that energy. Was there any moment where you had a moment of weakness in regards to them kind of messing with your psyche?
No, not at all. Um, Most of my traumatic experiences
Mm.
started when I deployed.
Okay.
No matter how much training a soldier has, you are never fully prepared mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally
Hmm.
to fully embrace, receive, and put in proper perspective of life as a soldier abroad. Because here's a misconception that people often have. Oh, if you are not a frontline soldier, if you're not in a certain job description, that you will never feel the brunt of being overseas.
Right.
It doesn't really matter what job title you hold in the military. When you are placed in those types of environments, especially in the military, soldiers are soldiers and they don't like you.
Hmm.
You're going to be attacked and targeted just as much as it has no. When you're a target, that's just it. They don't care about your rank, they don't care about your age, they don't care about your sex. The experience is very different. All of my what the F did I get myself into did not start happening until I deployed to Afghanistan
Right.
and after.
Welcome in, y'all. Gorilla King in the building. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Welcome in. Thank y'all for being here.
One of the reasons why they teach you how to adapt, right, and how to fall into place very early is because if you do get sent overseas,
Mhm.
it's a quick transition. It's like just they're throwing you right in the middle of whatever
Yeah.
chaos is happening. So they teach you how not to fold and expect chaos. Now, that might be an advantage to those that come from a chaotic environment. Did you hear what I just said?
Mm. I caught that. I caught that. Um.
They teach you how to function in chaos.
Hmm.
They teach you how to be responsible and how to focus on the goal.
Hmm.
So you do get taught a lot of disciplinary things, like what she said. Like a lot of parents send their kids to the army or to the armed forces because they want them to be, they want them to clean their room.
Yes,
Mm.
it's very true.
That's
They
crazy.
want more. Listen, even though I would never do it again
Hmm.
moving forward, um, I am not against all that the armed services have to offer.
Right.
I'm completely not against that. No matter what they experience, every soldier who have spent longer than 3, 4 months, even minimum, in the military has gained some invaluable skills, wisdom, knowledge, perspectives, even if they're not applying it.
Right.
Because you can't not be given something. Whether you use it or not, that's up to you.
So that's something that you could really unlearn.
Absolutely. Once you see it, you see it. You understand what I'm saying? It can be done. Now, whether what you do with it, now that depends on the individual. But I would always hold to it was one of the greatest decisions that I've ever made for my life.
Right. Hmm. So much has been so much has been said already, right? And we're not even an hour into the live yet. We're not really.
Look, I'm gonna give you another
Well,
perspective.
just
Okay?
right into an hour.
Let me give you a quick perspective. Okay,
Huh.
every time a new unit, a new recruiting unit goes in, it's like starting a new business.
Hmm.
Who's going to be the supervisor? Who's going to be the foreman? Who's going to be the guy? Because remember, you got to recruit within. You don't get people and be like, listen, you know what? Let me go get this guy from another group. No, you deal with what you have, right? With what has been recruited into this platoon or into this group or outfit. And for the drill sergeants and the people in charge, they're constantly having meetings about, hey, I see this guy being a strong leader, right? I see this guy being a problem. I see this woman being this. I see this. They know if a man and a woman have promiscuous intentions.
Right.
I mean, back in the days when I went to the service, when I was in basic training, they had this thing called saltpeter. It's
What's going on?
it's something that you drop into your food to eliminate a man becoming having the desire for sex. They put stuff in your food to eliminate your desire to have the desire to have intercourse.
Yeah, that's a myth. That's the myth, but
That's what they put in your head.
reality, the actual science to it all is you're in such a state of chaos and anxiety because everything that's going on during basic training that you don't have that desire. You don't know when you're going to wake up. You don't know when you're going to be allowed to go to sleep. So the last thing on your mind is SEX. I can tell you that. Just a backdrop. I went from prison. I was facing 4 counts of life to the army. When I arrived there, I wanted to go back to prison. You don't know what's going on. You know, people talk about the teaching and the training for going on overseas. You're not taught enough. In my personal opinion, you're not trained enough. You know, you don't expect a 10-year-old to run up on you with a rocket launcher. You're not taught that. Pregnant women strapped and laced with bombs. You're not ready.
So what he's saying is that there's not like basic training and going to your special school. It's not enough. It's. I mean, you could never be trained for something like that, especially if you never experienced it. But it's not long enough. It's actually shorter than the police academy.
But here's the thing also. You're never going to be fully trained, fully experienced, have everything you could possibly need for every venture you take in your life. It don't military included. They gave us, and this is just my perspective in life, whether it's military, motherhood, fatherhood, career, business, entrepreneurship, it's a timeless, lifelong experience of gaining information, learning skills, whatever it may be. It is impossible to know everything about everything and to be prepared and to also gain the confidence and the quick witness that you need to navigate all experiences. Now, granted, everybody experience is different, but that's an indisputable fact. You're always going to be learning. There's always going to be things that you're not taught, that you're not seeing, that you're not shown, that you have to engage in. So now, granted, do some soldiers get more training than others? That could be said. Do some soldiers take it more seriously than others? That could be said. There's so many variables that circle around anything, no matter what you're doing. And the military is no different.
What is y'all background in military? Like, are y'all prior service?
Yes, I served in the
I believe Omega was prior service.
I served in the army very early, man. I was like 18 years old. I was, I, here, my situation is a little bit different because I felt like I was in a shotgun wedding. I found out that someone was going to have my kid, and I was forced to get married so that we could all have the benefits, like the top tier benefits of a marriage. You know, it gives you better pay, it affords you housing, you know, down the road. So I was forced to get married at an early age, something that I didn't want to do. Um, I was in the army before I became a parent, and I went to the army because I was about to be a parent and I didn't have anything to offer. So I wasn't just going through the army stuff. I was going through the transition of coming from the hood, the transition of getting married at a young age. I was married at 18. A lot of things that I didn't want to do, but I knew that I had to do it anyway because I didn't have no house.
Right.
So you know you're in there with that mentality like, I really don't want to be here. I really don't want to be here. And it wasn't until my grandmother and I had that first conversation. I called my grandmother before I called anybody else. Before I called my wife at the time, before I called my mother, before I called anybody, I called my grandmother. She said, you have to learn how to make the best of whatever the situation is. You have to learn how to make the best of the situation. If you keep fighting it, you're not going to achieve. If you keep fighting it, you're not going to excel. If you keep fighting it, you're making it hard for yourself. And that speech right there turned me into G.I. Joe. Like I was starting to get into it, enjoying the morning job. I started to actually enjoy the vigorousness and you know what, the drill sergeants started noticing that right away. Right away they started seeing the transition. I mean, they wanted to take credit for it, but little do they know what was going inside my individual mind, right? But they did see the acceleration. They did see my interest in it now, right? And again, I was having fun now, right? Now I was the first one up. Now I was the motivator. Now I was the encourager. Now I was telling people, listen, I ain't trying to fall because you lacking. You know, so oh man, a lot of transitions were going on, but like, it wasn't until it snapped and I started like looking at the brighter side or the more positive sides that allowed me to actually excel. Because if you go to the service and you don't want to be there and you're forced to be there, that's different from enlisting. That's different from coming from a military family that you're used to this type of life. But if nobody in your family has been in the military, right? And you're doing this because you're a man, right? And you want to be a provider, right? And you admit, it took so much for me to admit that I don't think that I would be able to provide for my unborn child. Mm-hmm. So going in there, forced to get married, about to be a dad, nowhere near my family. I'd rather be in the streets. All that stuff made it so much difficult for me to actually comprehend what was actually going on. I wasn't really there, if that makes any sense. I wasn't there. And
It makes a lot of sense.
yes,
It's
once I
always
started liking it, once I started enjoying it, once I started understanding it, then I was able to flourish, right? Then I was able to be like, you know what? Let's grab the bull by the horns, right? Let's make the best of it. Let's do the best I can. And I kind of did it though to be spiteful. I'm gonna be honest with you. I made that transition to be spiteful, and I started blaming everybody else the reason why I was in there in the first place.
Hey, first of all, shout out, respect to the host of the live, respect to everyone on the panel. And real quick, I'll do a real quick rundown of actually my Marine Corps experience. Just real quick. I'm actually I lost three. I'm gonna say advanced, and I'll explain how it happened. I lost 3/4 of my right thumb in a training accident. Okay, so that happened about. Long story short, you guys know I was a quarterdeck king. Okay, I could not drill. I'm gonna say that up front. I was a quarterdeck king. I was not what you call the most compliant recruit in boot camp. Okay, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm saying it's just me, right? I was raised in a household where my mom taught me treat people how you want to be treated, right? So I was very strong-willed. Okay, I was a quarterdeck king. Long story short, I didn't wake up for Reveille one day, and I don't know how it happened, and I got put back into training with a different company. Well, that didn't work out well, right? I still graduated boot camp, and I did a month and a half longer. Okay, I went through trial training. I joined the Marine Corps, and I got with my unit, and I was a fighter. Okay, I had issues with called patellar tendonitis. One kneecap was higher than the other, but I got from meritorious PFC. So I had fight, I had determination. I got to the fleet, and this is where I lose my thumb. I'm about in the fleet for I would say a month and a half, and I'm me. I'm gonna say that. And my drill instructor sort of acts like the sergeant in the comm shop pretty much acts like a drill instructor. Okay, so for them to sort of be a smart aleck, what they did is sent me to a mortar range to be the radio guy. Well, you know what cross training, right? So they asked me if I wanted to cross train and said, did I want to drop mortars? Well, okay. So this is where it happens. I do the cross training. They say, do you want to drop the mortar? I say, absolutely, sure. I put the charges on the mortar. And I don't say this to ask for sympathy. I'm just sort of explaining my story. That's it.
Mhm.
So I dropped the mortar, the second and third mortar, the steel fin, steel fins on the mortar. One of them caught my thumb, took it completely off. The bone is sticking out, skin is hanging back, right? Everyone's sort of losing their mind around it. I'm in shock, so I'm like, oh, that's sort of wild, right? Long story short, they asked me, a lot of people present and this is where mindset comes in. This is why encouragement to people don't quit, don't give up. They said, hey, man, you lost your thumb, dude. You can get paid. Like, you can get paid if you get out right now. And I said, I didn't join the Marine Corps for an accident to happen and now me leave to find an easy way out. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I went through rehabilitation, and I'm gonna keep it real with you ladies and gentlemen. I had a chip on my shoulder. I did. I lost my thumb. I wasn't honest about the chip on my shoulder at first. I didn't even know. So after my injury, I went through rehabilitation, and let's say sergeants, I didn't have the best relationship with some of the higher ups sometimes, but I had respect from them. But some of them also did not know how to give respect. So long story short, when it's all said and done, I had a sergeant that he admitted it. He said, some of you, I could yell and scream, get in your face, and you're going to run like a chicken with its head cut off and do whatever I ask you to do. He said, but Blue, he said, hey, man, I just got to say, hey, PFC Lance Corporal Blue, can you go ahead and take care of that for me? And he's going to do it. My goal at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it was respect. I understand in the environment I was going into, that's not really a thing, especially in the Marine Corps. But my goal was respect. And I received that respect when it was all said and done. I ended up leaving the Marine Corps as a corporal. Now, if I didn't have the chip on my shoulder, I easily could have left the Marine Corps as probably E5 or E6, easily. But I acknowledged that I had the chip on my shoulder, and I did the personal work to deal with that so I can become a better person. And I'm going to land my plane.
Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate that, honestly.
Thank you for that.
Like I said, everybody's bringing a different dynamic to their experience, right? And it's actually a really good conversation, and I'm enjoying this.
I wanted to chime in real quick.
Go ahead.
Sis said something that was really powerful. Like even no matter what type of job that you had, they and brother up there, brother King, no matter what job you had, they didn't really prepare you for it. And I'm speaking from the end of being in one of the more specialized combat fields,
Mhm.
right? They train you for things, but they don't train you for they can't train you for every situation. Like brother was saying, like there's women and children on the battlefield that you just can't account for. There's people that do things that you wouldn't be able to like they train you to look for it, but they don't train you to deal with it afterwards. Like me and Hermingo were speaking of earlier, like when you deal with things like that, like it's hard for you to express it because they want you to still be able to drive forward. Like they'll look at you like, well, can you still pick up? Like I said earlier, can you still pick up a gun? Can you still function as a soldier? Like if it's not impeding any of that, then I don't see what the issue is. Like compartmentalize it and check in. You know what I'm saying? Like how we in basketball, hey, just check in.
Right.
Just check in. Like I'm gonna send you on this deployment. Just check in. Like it's all you gotta do. Just do what we trained you to do, and that starts taking a toll on a person when you don't have a proper outlet and they don't give you the tools to have a proper outlet. And that is why a lot of the situations happen with the military or some of the veterans that are out here that can't get the help after they get out because we were supposed to be able to get it while we're in, and
Mhm.
even even after we get out, but they make it so hard. There's so many veterans out here that deserve being able to get disability or deserve being able to have access to a psychiatrist, to be able to deal with their PTSD or be able to have these conversations because, a lot of us just can't speak on certain things. Like, there's certain things I can't speak on unless you have proper clearance. There's certain things that I can't even talk, you know what I'm saying, that I can't even talk about because it's like I don't have the proper person to be able to talk to about it. Like, and praise the Father for him allowing me to have friends and family members that's around that understand or understood or was in a lot of the similar jobs as me. Like, I've run across some people that, we can say a lot of things without saying a lot of things because we've been in those type of jobs. And, you know, they're like special forces, SEALs, this and that. And like, I was like, okay, so I could talk to you. So yeah, because they understand. But it's like some of the things that we go through, it's hard to explain to somebody that hasn't gone through it.
Right. And I know that's also a difficult conversation too, because like even with me asking my brother questions when he came back home, I was young though. I was like, I don't know, 20 at the time when he came back home. Um, Trying to ask him questions pertaining to what he dealt with and the things that he experienced. It was hard for him to open up about it, but I could tell that it changed him. I could tell just by the way that he looked, the way that his eyes looked, that it was a struggle for him to kind of transition back into just the world in general, right? Um, I'm not gonna dive too deep into that because that's gonna be one of the lives that we're gonna do is transitioning back into the civilian life. Um, so we're gonna have a full live about that, and we're gonna have both the vets and the family to come up in regards to that conversation because both perspectives are gonna be important to kind of give everybody an understanding of how that looks like, right? And I could speak on the family aspect of it in regards to what I've seen. Um, but kind of, so I got a question for everybody. And I don't want everybody to just jump and talk at once because this is being recorded. And I do want to be able to give everybody the understanding and the perspectives of each individual's experience, right? So, um, we all know going into basic training, actually getting into the field, you can have a sense of loss of support system in regards to that, right? Yeah, the family don't really understand what's going on. Trying to have that conversation, like J and J said, with certain people, it just doesn't sit well, right? Because there's certain things that you can tell them, there's certain things that you can't. But being in the field itself, leaving behind familiar relationships, leaving behind environments that you were comfortable with, we can increase in like the risk of loneliness, isolation, and homesickness. So, and did any of you guys experience any of those three things in that process? The loneliness, the isolation, the homesickness, just wanting to just be like, I'm good. I don't even want to do this no more. I just want to go home. Like, did you guys ever have that moment?
I mean, real quick for me, I'll be honest. I didn't have the most supportive family, so for me, it was I knew going to the Marine Corps. For me, it was about pushing myself. I didn't see any options for myself
Mhm.
from where I grew up. But when I was in the Marine Corps, actually, it was just for me. It was like, how do I create a new life for myself?
Right.
It's how do I create a look? And so, no, because I'm a people person, so I sort of connected with people pretty easily for the most part. I'll be honest, because
Hmm.
I didn't have a supportive family, man. I'll be honest. The truth, the saddest truth I can tell you is they lied to me when I came back from boot camp. And what I mean by this, they lied to my face, and I'm explaining, and I'll be done. I came from back. Okay, before I left, they told me. That they didn't think I could get through boot camp. Okay, Coach Emmanuel. They told me this. Several of them was like, I think the Marine Corps is too difficult. I don't think you're gonna make it through boot camp. Are you sure you want to go? It's really tough. It's really hard. I don't know if it's something you can do. And I
Right.
said, no, I want to go. I want to go. Right. I came back. Coach Emmanuel. They literally told me. This is what they told me to my face. To my face, they said, I knew you were gonna make it. I believed in you the whole time. And in my mind, I'm thinking, do you remember the conversation? Like, we had two complete conversations because what you said and what you're saying right now is not the same thing. And I'm gonna land my plane with that, Coach Emmanuel.
And honestly, I honestly think that that was them trying to not give you too much motivation, because I don't think they're trained to do that, right? They're not trained to motivate you that much to the point where you start getting cocky. I don't think that's what they wanted. So it was kind of a reverse psychology moment in a sense.
I could agree. I could agree with that, bro. I could.
Anybody else? I'm gonna go get some water, homie. So if you want to take control real quick.
No, if somebody else wants to jump in, I do have some things to say, but if somebody else wants to jump in, please.
No, I'll let you go. I'll let you go. Then I'll say it after you.
All right. I don't. What I don't want is for people to get the wrong idea, because as you can see, there are different experiences for different people. Preparation could only take you but so far. It might work against you for those people that go into ROTC and go in and listen, and they see you coming. They know that you have the ROTC experience. So don't think that because you have some advantages being in a prep like that, but they already know this, and they can make your life living hell. That's not going to excuse you from going through the trials and tribulations. Also, something that people need to consider: if you are considering going into the service, your test scores, right? The ASVAB that you take, that's important. I got into the Army with rank because I did what's called the buddy system. Me and two other people enlisted at the same time, and I had 2 years of college. So I already had rank. I was a E2. I was never an E1, right? I actually had a strike, but when I got in there, because they were going to send me to warrant officer school, and what you're going to be in the service is very important. Like, most people go into infantry, right? Because that's where they need the most bodies, right? The front line. And honestly speaking, that to me, that's a disaster, because you're just a body. You could be a shield. They use people as shields. I was going to be a combat signaler. For those that don't know, it's a 31 kilo, right? A combat signaler is the person that they send in to enemy territory to infiltrate and to find out where the mess hall is, where their weapons are, if they have POWs, their whole system, the whole architectural system. And I'm supposed to make it all the way back to then give them the information that I have. And it's not anything writing, it's all in my head. So I have to kind of lay it out for them so that then we can do the plan of attack, because you don't really know what you're doing until you get there. You get an idea, right? But then circumstances change really quickly. So I just want people to understand that some of the skills that I acquired in the service, I use this. And it's an intricate part of my coaching too, infiltration. Because then I'm able to make great assessments under pressure, under fire, quickly and accurate. Can you touch on that, Gorilla King?
No, not really. I was I was an accountant in the military, and it's a weird story behind that. I can touch on the ASVAB part, and that's why I was an accountant. They actually want me to be a linguist because at the time I knew Arabic, Spanish, English, and French, a little bit of French. But I chose accounting. Um, and it's odd. People think, okay, well, you was an accountant, you didn't do much. I did enough. I did enough. And the reason why they had to put me in accounting and not in any of these fields, like, on the front lines, or I mean,
Infantry, yeah.
infantry, yeah, or recon or anything like that. It was because for the first 7 months in the military, I wasn't allowed to carry a weapon.
Okay.
You know, what people don't realize is when I swore into the military, I was shackled from head to toe and had two U.S. Marshals escort me down there. Um, just a quick backdrop of what was going on was those 3 counts of life. 2 of them was attempted murder, and one of them was selling, well, kingpin charges.
Right.
I wanted to be the next Bumpy Johnson. I wanted to be America's gangster, and I wanted to be the best at it. Thankfully enough, my kids and that judge in an all-white town who was a veteran who decided that the best option for me was to be in the military versus being stuck in prison for the remainder of my life gave me a chance. So did I miss being home? No. Because I knew that if I failed at basic training or failed at AIT and didn't get through all this stuff, I was going back to prison.
Mm.
I wanted to do something that would make my mother proud, that would make my family proud, that would make my kids proud. So I didn't miss being home. I wanted to keep going. I wanted to keep doing the things that would elevate me in their eyes
Mm.
versus what I was doing before, because before was just dangerous. My mom would cry because she heard that some town got shot up and she knew that it had to do with me and my friends. She was glad to see that I turned over a new leaf and was doing something different. They didn't want me to come home. So the only struggles I had in the army was missing all the first times with my kid, his
Mhm.
first walks, his first words, and things like that, because I was stationed in Korea. I was there for a year and a half. I didn't have to. I hit the sand for about 2 days. When they realized I was an accountant, they sent my black ass back to the States. It's like, we don't need you over here.
Were you on vacation?
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, because I didn't even leave the airport. I was so excited, ready to go do something. They're like, no. Who, who sent you over here? So they sent me to Fort Stewart instead, which I'd rather stayed in the desert than go to Fort Stewart.
Ooh, let them know what Fort Stewart is, give them.
Horrible, horrible.
What branch were you?
Army?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But I can say with some of the soldiers that was with me, a lot of them miss being home. They never understood why I didn't want to go home,
Mm.
but they missed it. There's times that my bunkmate would just cry all night because he just wanted to go home. Of course, we had the sock party because he was crying too much. He kept getting smoked. But But yeah, for those of you who are trying to get in, those of you who feel like there's no hope in life, and I'm honestly going to talk to my local government council about this program, um, to allow some of these teens, 18 and up, give them a chance.
Hmm. I agree.
Allow them to take the ass raps instead of putting them in jail. Give them a chance to go and serve some time in the military.
Right.
You'd be amazed how many of them don't go back to jail ever.
Sometimes they just need a chance.
Exactly.
They don't have no other outlets.
And sometimes they don't have no other options. They really don't. Like, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So before we continue, um, I just want to have a moment of silence. Just a moment of silence for one of our family members that we lost, who was also a veteran. Um, Great spirit, great soul, amazing person, amazing heart. She did a lot of work trying to shed light in regards to the mental health aspect and trying to bring light to the amount of inconsistencies when it comes to the medical, when it comes to the support of the medical aspect in the military. Um, if you go watch her page, tweets, Dev, can you put the name of her channel in the comments if you can, in regards to that? I'd really appreciate that. So we could just have a moment of silence. There's a lot of people that still deserve to be here, that has done so much work to try to bring light to the world, that are no longer here. And she was one of those individuals. Her energy, the way that she operated, the way that she showed everybody love, the way that she smiled, the way that she embraced just who she was, no matter what she was dealing with, you would never see her struggles unless she spoke about it. And she wasn't afraid to speak about it either. She used what she was dealing with as a learning experience for everybody. It's a teaching moment for everybody. And she embraced all of it. She did. She embraced all of it. Even now, because of her meetings and just listening, I'm able to help my uncles who are vets. She did a lot of work, guys. So if you do, if you see her page, definitely show love to support that. Even though she's not here, keep pushing her content, keep pushing her information out. She did a lot of work. She did her best to really shed light on a lot of things that people are afraid to shed light on, and she wasn't scared to do so. King of Spades, I see you, brother. I see you in the chat. So, so I do appreciate you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys for being just being here. Like, I know this is not an easy conversation to have. I know a lot of the stuff that they're speaking on, you know, they're able to speak on it now. I'm sure before they weren't able to speak on it. And I do appreciate the fact that you guys are being as transparent as you possibly can be in regards to this, because I know there's certain things that can't be spoken of. So I do appreciate you guys. I appreciate Gene, Dev, Spades. I see you guys. Those were also family and connected with tweets. So I appreciate you guys for being here. I do. I appreciate you guys for being here. I did send it to Davino and Angel. I don't know if they were available or not, but I did send it over to them. So I appreciate you guys. Shout out to the sister chat. Make sure you guys check them after we get off of here at 1. Uh, Tweets was also connected with them as well. She was a part of the sister chat. We worked very closely with them for years. Me and Hormiga. We did a lot of work together. We did a lot of work together over the years. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that. I'm gonna leave this up. I'm gonna leave this up. I'm gonna leave this up.
I would I would ask people to be a little bit more open minded. The military is not for everybody,
Hmm.
but you can't really make that decision until you try it, right? So that's kind of a catch-22 situation because the armed forces will bring out either the worst in you or the best in you.
Right.
And the benefits, the perks, the learning experiences, like some people get a bad rap because there's too many homeless veterans, right? And then you got this disparity, like, why isn't the United States taking care of their own?
Hmm.
A question to this day I'm having a problem with. I feel very, there should never be a veteran, a homeless veteran. We shouldn't have homeless period, right?
Right.
But a homeless veteran touches me in a different way.
I always found that very odd.
I think it's sickening to the stomach.
It is. It is. Because they put themselves in the line of danger if they were in the line of danger. And to see them struggling the way that they're struggling, to see them not getting the support that they need to have or they should have, is it's kind of scary. Because if you can do that to the veterans, what are you doing to just civilians in general? If you
Right.
can do that to a veteran, someone that put their life on the line, to make sure that us civilians were able to even have a place to live, to stay, to have a country that we can even call home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine that? That's wild. Like
Now
that's wild.
that's just a homelessness issue, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Now we have the people that are not homeless but have the mental issues, right?
Right. I was just gonna speak on that too because it doesn't even matter for me. It doesn't even matter if you serve combat time or not. The fact that you even served is enough because the things that you go through serving, like people wouldn't understand. Like for example, in a normal job, right? You have the option to say no. I don't want to do this. Yes, it could be a detriment to your job or whatever like that, just in the civilian world, right? But you have the option. Like, if you don't want to do it, you can move around. In the military, you don't have this option. Like, what you're in for is what you're in for, unless you change your job through channels and things like that. But you still have to deal with things. I'll give an example. There's a like they do a lot of community punishment, right? There was times where I work a 16-hour shift, working the gate, checking IDs, doing these things and stuff like that. Somebody that I don't even know that's in my squadron or in my platoon or whatever that was off duty gets in trouble and now I gotta suffer for it. And I'm just getting off work of the 16-hour shift and now I gotta stand outside and get yelled at because somebody was drunk driving and got caught on base. And these are things that you deal with. Just little random stuff that most people wouldn't be able to understand because it's like you don't deal with that in the civilian side. Like in the military, like what they say goes, how they deal with it, how your leadership is. Like you don't get to pick your leadership. You don't get to say certain things because that could be it's just a lot that you deal with. And then to come out and to have to deal with the things that we deal with on the outside, like with the VA or even with mental health or anything like that. Like it's a shame. Like would think that it would be handled better, especially since people who volunteer. Like this isn't like we're in a draft season or anything like that. Like we're dealing with people who are volunteering to serve their country and give their life for being able to have the betterment of the country or being able to protect the country. And these things just happen, and it's sad. Like I hate to see that the number of homeless veterans are so high, and the number of veterans that have mental health issues that don't know how to deal with this is so high.
But a lot of times, the one thing that Gorilla had spoke about on a previous platform is the PTSD and not having the counselors or the therapists that can understand what you guys dealt with. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to speak to somebody that's never experienced what you guys experienced. Like, how can they help you with that besides trying to throw you on some medication?
Right. But there's different levels to it as well. You understand what I'm saying? The intricate factors is that mental health for the armed forces is a relatively new thing. Health for veterans is usually in a physical capacity.
Hmm.
Again, mental health in itself,
It's
it's
new.
it's a new concept.
Right.
So, you know, the FBI didn't start using mental health, tried to introduce this as to be able to assess and to try to how can I say this, be one step ahead of the criminals. It wasn't accepted. They tried to run this program 3 or 4 times. If you know the history of mental health, the FBI tried to initiate these things and they weren't funded. They weren't funded for a long time. It wasn't a serious thing until it
Hmm.
became overwhelming, and now it's out of control. You understand? Again, mental health is it's a new concept for a lot of different outlets, the military being one. And it's because there's different levels to it. Mm, There is no one way of dealing with this because
Right.
it's in different levels. Some people are at the point where they hear things. Some people are at the point where they're triggered by noises, certain voices, temperament. I've seen it myself where I've seen a veteran watch a movie
Hmm.
and he went buck wild.
I've seen it too. I've seen one of my friends when he came back home. We all went out for drinks, right? We were just having a good time. Um, it was towards 4th of July, and he heard a firecracker go off. And the moment that went off, it was like like a switch turned on in his head, and we didn't really know how to get him back to that moment of just civilian life again. It was hard to get him back out of that. So what I did was I grabbed him, we threw him in the car, and we drove off and tried to get him away from the noise. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get him away from the noise. And you guys know I love water, so we took him to the beach just to try to get him away from all the crazy noise, the loud noise, and try to get him in the place where he could be calm. It worked, right? But it wasn't the easiest thing to do either. Like we had to really sit with him. We had to let him kind of just get that out, even though we didn't want him in that space. But the moment that switches, we couldn't just try to switch him back out of it. We like he had to experience it, even though he didn't feel like he needed to. But that trigger is real. Like that's a real trigger, and we learned that the hard way. You know what I'm saying? We learned that the hard way.
It's funny. It's funny because real quick, it's funny because even in the armed service, they tell you this is not for the weak.
Right.
You understand? And they say that only
Mind
the
you,
strong
yep.
survive, right?
Right.
So you're under so much pressure that you don't even know you're under while you're there. And then when you finally are released, or you finally say, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to do another term," right?
Hmm.
You're coming back to a strange place. You're not coming back to the same place you left because guess what? Life evolves, right? And depending on how much time has passed by, whether you did a 10 year or 20 year, 15 year, it doesn't even matter. Even in 5 years, right? 4 or 5 years, you're not coming back to the same people because they have changed. You're not coming back to the same environment. It's either worse, or maybe there's been a change whatsoever. Your attitude is not the same. Have you ever seen someone that comes back from the armed forces and most people are not even smiling? They have this serious face upon them, like at any moment something could jump off. You ever notice that?
Yeah. Listen, I remember a moment. I was young and I was a night owl. I never slept. Um, I heard a lot of rustling when I was with my mom. My brother was there. He just came back. Um, and we just hear a lot of rustling downstairs. I'm just like trying to figure out what that was, right? So I go downstairs and my brother is just like pacing back and forth. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know what was going on. I was young at the time, so I didn't really know what was happening. And he was just like pacing back and forth. And then he opens the door to the front door, and he's just standing outside. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with him. Like, I guess he heard noises that kind of similar, like was similar to him being out there. Like he was just hearing certain noises and certain things that kind of just made him just think that he was still there. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like I didn't want to grab him because I didn't know how he was going to react if I grabbed him. So I kind of just watched him to make sure that he didn't do nothing crazy. So I just sat there and I watched him. My mom was at work. My sister wasn't there. It was just me and him in the house. So it was just like I sat there and I just kind of watched him just to make sure that he didn't like jump into the middle of the street or anything or doing anything crazy, right? Because I didn't want him to get hurt. So I kind of just sat and I watched. And then he walked back. Luckily, he walked back into the house. I guess something he got back to where he was and walked back into the house. But for that moment, I was scared. I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I even deal with that as a kid? Like, you know what I'm saying? Even though that's my brother, like, you know, I want to make sure that he's okay. But I'm just like, what do I do? Like, do I just let him kind of go through that process or do I snap him out of it? Like, so
Good luck
it's
with that.
It goes to what you said though, Coach Emmanuel. It's like we just don't know. Even as an adult, right? Even if you weren't a child and you were an adult, like what prepares you to be able to help someone dealing with that, right? Like, and unless we specifically like many of us, right, are either personal development coaches, life coaches, different things like that. Unless you specifically seek out that field and get the specified training, you don't know what you don't know. And another thing, I want to speak on is the negative connotations of being a veteran, Coach Emmanuel. There's a lot of times where I was maybe meeting young ladies for the first time, and I'm an attractive guy, fit guy. But the minute they found out that I was a veteran, it was like, oh, I don't date veterans. Like it was like, and I was trying to understand, what does that have to do with me being, you know, a possible person you can date? But it's almost like this negative connotation behind it, like the fact that you've served your country and the fact that you have been to certain places that makes you a risk. And I am not saying that we as veterans, like there's things, and many have talked about it. Uh, for me, I love what you guys talk about, like with deep depression and PTSD, like how subtle it is, but how debilitating it is when it hits you and you don't really know what it is.
mm,
It's a process to deal with, to overcome, to learn coping mechanisms. But I think the most beautiful thing I'm gonna say, I'm gonna land my plane, is us. We're the answer for helping veterans. It's us that has gone through the storm. How I share it on my life, sometimes I say a lot of times we think what we go through is for us. What we go through is not for us. It's for those that will have, since we have made it through the storm and we know how to make it through the storm, is to help pull people through the storm and make it to the other side. I'm going to land my plane.
I agree.
I was I
Go
was
ahead,
gonna
Jay.
chime in on that too because I'm gonna speak like the example you gave, Coach Manuel. I'm gonna chime into it from the other aspect, the other side of it, right? So I've had an experience like that to where like me and my wife, we were in the house or whatever, and at the time we were staying with her brother, and he was gone, and it was really really late in the house, and or at night, right? And I guess he was coming back in, and all I'm hearing is like something at the door. Like I'm not putting two and two together at this point, but like that switch snaps so quick of you just going back to things that you're trained on, and like for my wife, like it took her a minute to calm me down because like I was quick, like I was about to like grab everything that I had, like hey, there's an intruder, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what the intentions is, like I don't know, like I was like the switch flipped really quick, right? And like brother was saying down there, like, after those situations, like you realize how much it affects you, or how
Right.
much things affect you. Like you don't understand, like, oh, I don't have PTSD. I don't I don't think I'm dealing with these things. But then like you sit back and you look at some of the situations and how you react to them, you be like, man, maybe I do. And really learning those coping mechanisms to be able to help you in those situations. Because there's certain things that I still do, like when I go to certain restaurants, like I have to sit a certain way. I have to look at, be able to, it's just hard grained in me at this point, But it's like those things still go back to that's still a part of PTSD because you're still looking at situations like it. There's a problem,
Right.
right? And I'm back home now. Of course things can happen, but I shouldn't have to be that heightened all the time, even though it was ingrained in me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like me understanding that now, and even in having this conversation, come to that revelation, like that's still being a part of PTSD because you still want to read the room, you still want to react to certain things a certain way, you still want to do things a certain way because this is how you were trained. Even going back to like on 4th of July, like I like to get away because I know that it's a trigger. Like I don't like to be around it. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you you just it, a lot of those things get so hard grained, and you're not trained to be like, oh, this could be symptoms of this is
Right.
what you're dealing with. This is how to deal with them. So it's like finding those things. But that's all I wanted to say.
No, I appreciate that. Appreciate that because that's deep and that's real.
I'll tell you this much. There's a big misconception because the military themselves feel like you're not supposed to have these things. Let me just keep it real because I'm disgusted at how veterans are treated. Right? You you're serving the country to protect the country. A lot of times people are there and they don't want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But they become these soldiers, right?
Mm-hmm.
These yes sir, yes ma'am type people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Become disciplined, they become conditioned to serve the purpose, right?
Right.
The military doesn't serve the purpose of you. They feel as though the perks that they give you and the benefits that you get are good enough.
Right.
And it's not for a lot of people. They actually, I've heard a conversation when they say that if somebody leaves with mental issues from the armed forces, it's because they had undiscovered mental issues when they first got in there. So
Wow.
they're not taking accountability that the experience that the soldiers have and come home with is the reason why they have these mental issues that it happened before they even joined the military.
MJ, welcome in. Gorilla, I seen you on mute. Go ahead, brother.
Whew.
Mm.
Well, unfortunately, I can't stay on long. I got my kid's birthday today, and then
Right,
Happy
right, right.
birthday.
just found out that one of my close friends passed away
Oh man,
My
today
condolences.
as well.
so sorry.
Appreciate it.
My condolences. My condolences. Happy birthday to your child.
Thank you, thank you. Um, the one thing I would always suggest to anyone, I guess, helping veterans get through mental health is listen to their story, not just a part of their story, but their whole story.
Right.
Allow them to speak on it,
Mm-hmm.
and then take a moment in between the times to, I guess, get a funnier story out, because you got to keep in mind that these type of conversations can also be triggering to some. So you have to offer them a bit of balance.
Right. And
Um,
that's why we're hosting this for the month
yeah,
because one conversation is not enough.
right.
So as much as we can provide the space, right? I know it's not easy to have these conversations. I know it's not easy to come up here and speak on these things. So if you're able to and you're willing to, for all veterans, the space is yours. This is yours. This is your month. The space is yours. I'm not allowing anybody else that's not a veteran or a veteran's spouse to partake in these spaces for the month on Saturdays. This is for you guys. You know what I'm saying? It's not a conversation that's been done. Well, it has, but it hasn't gone so well. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't gone so well. I've seen other panelists or other hosts try to do a hold a space for veterans, and it hasn't been the best. I've seen a lot of veterans be attacked. I've seen a lot of veterans be disrespected, and one thing we don't do is move with disrespect over here. We don't play those games. We do not play those games over here, especially when you guys made it a point to fight for our freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not okay to disrespect anybody that's willing to put their life on the line, whether it was a personal reason or not. You guys still put yourself on the line to fight for our freedom. Whether you were in combat or you were in accounting, you still played a role in our freedom, and we appreciate that wholeheartedly, 100%. Let me. What you got on your screen?
Can y'all hear me?
Absolutely.
So I want to say something to that. And that's the same thing, the same concept, the same philosophy that I was told, right? And it's absolutely huge. And it's not to be discounted.
Right.
With that, I want to add to educating ourselves is by far the most important and imperative thing that we can do. And so there's always two sides, well, really three sides. No one ever counts, not no one, but very rarely we count the balance side, the harmony, just like in a coin, right? There's three sides to a coin.
Right.
There's the left side, the right side, or the front, back, and then there's the slim side. So everything is always triune and polar or dual. Another truth that we don't often hear is the truth that we were under the guise that we were fighting for liberties, freedoms, different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another truth that we wasn't fighting for freedom and to secure safety for our families. We were also fighting for power.
Okay.
We were doing the bidding of the elites. And it's not to discount the experiences, because like I said, it's one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. And it was a very honorable one. However, also knowing the innermost workings of military as it relates to politics also helped me to gain a deeper perspective
Mm-hmm.
and my experiences with that. The military also has tons and tons of resources,
Right.
tons of therapists, tons of family therapists. Like they have tons of services that help. However, there are many veterans and active service members who choose to not seek that help. So I just wanted to add that, because oftentimes when we're speaking, I know that it also appears that veterans don't get enough help. I'm a veteran myself. However, I can't say that in transparent honesty because there is a lot of help. I had a phenomenal therapist while in the military. I still have a phenomenal therapist. I mean, it took me some time because I ran through a couple that didn't really understand what was going on, but they do have people who genuinely care about people, especially their fellow vets,
Right.
fellow service members, as well as their family. So it's not always up to or relating or the deciding factor whether or not veterans service members are actually getting help. Remember, they're always variables. There's certain of us who are choosing not to get that help.
I appreciate that. Honestly, I was about to ask you about that because I seen what you wrote in the chat.
Yeah.
I wanted to let everybody just get it off before I asked you that question.
She's right. She's right. But the problem is not that there's a misconception that there's no programs out there for them. The problem is that there's no segue created to get them there. We know that.
And right there, hold on.
You feel me on that? Because it's not an easy.
I really want to speak on.
Go ahead, then. Go ahead, please.
And I'm my man. My apologies for interrupting.
No,
That's what I actually want to speak on. That's why I requested in the chat, because the reality is this: there's programs available, okay, but if we're honest, it takes veterans talking to, working with, and dealing with veterans to ensure we pass the information around. There's a phenomenal guy. I'm gonna find him, and I'm going to put his YouTube channel in the chats. Like he's a veteran, but he stays up on any changes that happens with veterans. When laws are passed, when the increase happens, the COLA, like this guy stays on top of everything. I'm notified every single video. Any change takes place, he stays on top of it for the sake of helping other veterans. Yeah. So what it comes down to, I don't disagree with you, Miss Venus, but what happens is a lot of times we don't understand how to access these programs. And let's be honest, sometimes with government programs, how things are set up sometimes is getting access to. Like the programs are there, the information is there, different things that we can utilize, but it takes us helping us to help understand how to get access to those things sometimes.
That's also a valid point. However, I'm gonna give a little pushback. At the least, every service member, whether you are going in or transitioning, there are different procedures, policies, and practices. I don't, to this day, agree that we're not, as we transition out specifically, are not given the foundations and the fundamentals about what services that are provided for us. At the very least, they give you numbers. They may not walk with you, hold your hand, persist. For whatever reason, they do that. But at the bare minimum, they give you and let you know that you have access to all of these different resources. Right. I myself will say that because I was one of those service members, and I've had all the information. I knew I had access to a therapist. I knew I had access to veteran group service meetings, the family group and all of those different things. I did not choose to participate. It's not that it's not there. It's always there. It's always been there. And at the minimum, they give you that information, whether they give you that little veteran hotline card or not. That's still them letting you know that there's a service available for you. If you so choose, you have access. So that's one thing that I want to make sure that we're clear on. At the minimum, we are provided that.
Right. Let me touch on that real quick. I'm not arguing that there are services, right? What I'm talking about is if a person doesn't know that they have this, right, they're not going to chase it. They're not going to look into it, right? That's number one. Number two, the military teaches you that only the strong survive. So it is embarrassing once a person finds out that they might have an issue to come forward without the support system that comes behind it. Yes, it's almost like when somebody comes to you and says, "Here's my card. If you have any questions or you need any help, let me know." I don't know if I need any help yet. That's number one. Number two, I'm too embarrassed to ask. As a man, we are expected, and I'm only speaking for the men here, we are expected to have a certain persona, a certain characteristics. You know, men aren't supposed to cry, men aren't supposed to be vulnerable, because the moment that a man starts talking about his emotions, he's showing signs of weakness. That's full circle in the military. When a person comes out of the military, you want to be able to say, "I was a proud veteran, right? I served my country." The last thing you want to do is say, "Hey, you know what? I'm out of the military and I have mental issues." That's not a success. That doesn't line up with what we believe is a successful tour in the service.
Right.
So if you don't know that you have mental problems, how could you do it? All I'm saying is that there's not enough of a segue or a bridge meeting. I believe that everyone should be mentally evaluated before they leave the military.
I doubt that. Cool. I mean,
That's
I
that's
agree.
what I'm talking about. Venus, I agree with you 100%. So I was wrong if that's what I came out with, and I'm glad you corrected me.
No, no,
Yes.
no, 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 no. I
Yeah.
absolutely, just like I said, and prior to me saying that, I agree with all of it, and it's just about sharing information. It's not really, so much subscribing to wrong or right. All the information is valid. All the information is true. It's about sharing perspectives. That's all. And just bringing a clarity on different things, because we all have different experiences. We all have different knowledge, and that's okay. It's about sharing. And that last part that you said, I think that is. I don't know if they're doing it now, but that would be an incredibly helpful tool, because when I was transitioning out, that's not something particular that they focused on. Yes, there was an out processing, right? But evaluating your mental health wasn't a main focus of that. Like, they'll touch on a little bit, but it wasn't a main focus, right?
Right.
And then it goes to the question is like, at the end of the day, we would love that all people would actively choose to speak up. That's not reality. So, is it valid about the insecurities that we have, the stigmas that we have, that men should not speak up about their vulnerabilities, their scarcities, their fears, their inability at the moments to process, especially their emotions, just like women? Absolutely. However, on the other spectrum of that, we also can't force someone to do something, even though we may want it really bad for them. Right. And so, how do we know? How will we know? Of course, there's various of ways, but the most fundamental of those ways is by speaking up. And if you don't say something, how are they, you, anyone else is going to know?
Right.
Especially when we're doing a very good job at masking how desperate we are, masking how hopeless we are, masking how lonely we are, masking how isolated we are, masking how deprived we are. We do a very good job at this. So, of course, if we're relying on our sensory output on a physical aspect, what we see is not what's going on. But that's what you're showing us. That's what we see. So unless you're intuitive and in tune with reading energy, being intuitive, seeing past someone's smile that it really isn't a smile, it's a cry out for help. How
Right.
would we know?
So, if and for the people that are sending requests to be in the boxes, can you please let me know if you are a veteran in the chat? Because if you are not a veteran, uh,
Or your or your
just
or your
respectfully,
or your relationship to this conversation as well.
right? Respectfully, I'm not letting anybody in the boxes if they're not a veteran today. Is for the veterans today. Respectfully.
So let's keep that conversation going, Venus, because that's an interesting point. We've come to the consensus that a closed mouth does not get fed, right?
Correct.
Well, what if the place where you came from conditioned you to keep your mouth quiet?
That's a valid point, and it's also very valid in that it happens. So here's the thing, and I sincerely say this. You're going to do two things in this world. Whether you know it or not, like it or not, understand it or not, are aware of it or not, you are either going to speak up or be spoken for. So at the core of it, we are responsible for what we say and what we don't say. Are there influences? Absolutely. Undeniable. And they're very strong influences. Very strong influences. However, what we cannot say, factually speaking, is that you don't have a choice to choose, even if those choices aren't favorable to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we,
What's
we have
that?
we have to do a we have to do a better job because now take a non-military man and how he feels, right, and then add the military, to it, right? It makes it even worse because
Sometimes worse.
we're having this problem in modern society without being veterans, right?
Yeah.
So now add the element of the military. Now I don't want to give the military a bad name or a bad feeling. Again, there's a lot of great benefits. I've learned so many things. I mean, you should see the way I make my bed.
But that's the point of these lives, right? Not only to give the veterans a space, but to debunk the negativity. Because a lot of this, because the one thing that people try to do is shed a negative light on the military always, right? There's not everything
Yes.
has negativity to it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? There's positives and there's negatives to everything in the world, which is why the balance is needed. Optimus, are you a veteran? If you're sending a request, like, can you just say it in the chat? I'm a vet. You know what I'm saying? I just need somebody to just vocalize it in the chat if you're sending a request.
Look at Jade's comment.
Mhm. So we're doing the spouse one next week. Next week we're doing the spouse. So if you are a spouse of a vet, be sure to be there next week because that space is for you. The whole panel is gonna be for you. Yeah.
That's going to be a tough panel.
Hey, would it be okay if I brought my wife up?
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I gotta say, man, like, just speak on just having a supportive spouse is one of the biggest blessings.
Right.
When PTSD is hitting certain parts of my life, my wife was just she was just there for me. And listen, gentlemen and ladies, I was difficult because I was going through something. I was in a bad headspace, and I was in a bad headspace where where even if you want to be in a good mindset, it doesn't matter. Like my headspace was just in a bad space. I was in deep depression, and there's times I would just shut down. I would lie to you not for like nine months. I would shut down, and she was just there, and she was loving, and she was supportive, and she said, "Hey, like I'm here for you." And I was horrible to her. I was mean. I snapped at her. I was just not a pleasant person, but it was her love for me, and not she could have left, you guys. She could have just said, "I'm out. You're an unpleasant person. You're not, doing all the perfect things I want you to do, A through Z, and you're not creating the perfect environment for me, and I'm gone." But she did not, and she has been a blessing to me that I can't explain how large of a blessing she has been, and I just want to express that because there are some women listening right now that has been in that position, and you're appreciated and you're loved. And even if your husband or your significant other is not able to say it right now because they're just in a bad headspace, you are appreciated and loved, and thank you for loving them when they're in their worst place. I land my plane.
We appreciate that and wholeheartedly.
Next week is going to get deep. Next week is going to get deep because we get to see it from a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? Of what from the outside looking in,
Hmm.
because in order to deal with mental health, you have to look at it from different perspectives as the person being involved with this. We talk about this all the time, right? Awareness is the beginning stages of everything. But if you are not aware that you have a problem, if you are not aware that something is why something is affecting you, and it goes back to what Venus always promotes, the understanding of this.
Hmm.
You know, you could. How many people walk around with something heavy and they don't know where it's coming from? How many people walk around and cannot express themselves because their emotions get in the way? I'm a firm believer, and I used to say it one-dimensionally, that your mind comes up with an idea and your heart tries to convince you otherwise. Guess what? There's more to that, Teddy. Now it's now it's your heart feels something, and then your brain tries to tell you that that's not the right emotion for what's supposed to happen. See, so the brain suppresses the feelings, and the heart convinces you that your ideas suck. So where do you win here?
Right.
Venus, want
Right.
to touch on that real quick?
Sure. This is perhaps the main reason why I teach what I teach and why I study what I study. When it comes to mental programming, the higher ups in the military understand a lot that we don't. Civilians and veterans, active members alike. But here's also, not but, also here's an undesirable truth. Even though all variables, all factors, all influences, all experiences are very valid, there is also an indisputable fact that no one is excluded from governing principles and laws that dictate our behaviors. And the best thing we can do is educate ourselves on it. Because it doesn't matter if you go into the military, if you go into the world, if you're coming from the military, right? When you do not understand mental programming, the neurosciences behind it, you can inadvertently, indirectly affect not only you, but so many people involved. And the more you go in life without understanding this, the worse it can get for all people involved. All people involved. And that's just a truth of it. Every decision you make, there's cause and effect. Every choice you make, there's cause and effect. And so when tragedies, when PTSD, when all of the byproducts of our choices happen, being responsible and being accountable matters,
Hmm.
because you are solely responsible for your mental health. You're solely responsible for what happens in your reality and the reality of all those who are closest and dear to you, because you are closely connected to them. So we can continue, and I say we because we are one, we're interconnected, even though we're having individual experiences. We can keep pretending like, yeah, they did this, they did that, it's because of this, it's because of that. And when you don't understand things like language cymatics, you don't understand that your life is getting way worse. When you don't understand the inner workings of politics, your life is getting worse. When you don't understand the inner workings of, that's Peanut. He talk way too much sometimes. Let me go inside. Peanut's the neighbor's dog. He be, man, him and them squirrels, they be having whole conversations. So when you don't understand the inner workings of these things, all of it matters.
Right.
It really do. And at some point, when we get to a level of maturity where we're able to say, I don't want that, or I want this, or I'm gonna do that, I'm not gonna do that, baby, it's all you. It is all you. You're the cause of it. You the one that get to decide which version of you want to be. You get to decide parts of what happens to your family, because what you do is going to affect them also.
Right.
So having conversations like this matters. Also teaching what all of us teach collectively, to combine it, matters.
Right. Agreed. 100%.
Most,
And they know this. They let me tell you something. The higher ups in the military, they understand what programming is.
Hmm.
They understand all of this. Even the NCOs, the sergeants, some of the commanders, baby, it's all under the same pyramid. They know what they're doing. They know what they have to create, right? They know what they have to. They know what they have to continue to try to control. It's up to us. It is up to us, and you cannot fight what you can't see. And I don't mean with your eyes. I mean what you sense.
Right.
you know, something that we can't overlook either is there are some people that can't comprehend the concept that asking for help is
A sign of weakness.
not being a victim.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Some people are very uncomfortable asking for help because they don't want to be seen as a victim. That's why we're having this conversation, to let you know that we're listening, to let you know that we are going to get the word out. I will never stop trying to create a segue that has been barricaded, in so many different ways to get there. Yes, Venus, I'm with you 100%. There's a ton of information out there. But my mother also told me one time, and I'm going to take this from the conversation yesterday that I didn't say. We had a great conversation about boundaries yesterday, right? And let me lead that into this conversation. My mother told me once, son, knowledge is power. And I went with that. For a while until I realized, I'm like, Mom, how could knowledge be power if you're not putting it into play? You're powerless if all you have is knowledge. If you're not using the knowledge, if you're not putting it in a different perspective, if we're not having these conversations, right? If we're not having these beautiful awareness conversations, that how many people know someone that's so smart, but yet they're nowhere?
Right.
Many of us.
Many of us.
Because we're not applying it. So in other words, Venus, the information is not enough. We have to bridge the gap.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Do you agree, motivation, that we need to do a better job, not just expecting them to take this step on
Yes.
their own? We got to encourage them.
Absolutely. Absolutely, bro. This is the thing. Everything is a process, right? So we got to look at ourselves. There was at a point where maybe you didn't pick up a book and read, right? Maybe you did not seek out personal growth. So, personal growth is a lifetime journey, correct? But we got to look at ourselves individually and say, at what year, what time, what moment did all of a sudden that our eyes was open to what personal growth even meant, that we even gave it a shot, that we even considered it. So in saying that means we have have the same compassion towards others, and knowing that, listen, it may take us, and many are not of the faith, but I'm simply gonna say this: the same way someone might say you plant the seed with the Christian faith, the same way we plant the seed with this. It might be us speaking into someone and just making them aware of what's available. And then what happens later on is no pressure, right? I say, listen, when you're ready to get more information, you know where I'm at. It's just like everybody on this panel. They know where you're at. They can go and hit you with that DM, right? That direct message. So you say, listen, I got some information for you. And I understand you're not ready to receive it. You're not in the right mind frame, in the right mindset to receive what I have to say. But when you are ready, you go and hit me with that DM and we'll start doing that work.
Absolutely. Agree
Absolutely.
100%.
I love what
Go ahead, Venus.
Yeah, it is.
your mom or your grandma said to you about power.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I say, and I love quotes, I love phrases. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is indeed power. However, it only becomes powerful when you apply it. And when you know that you're always attracting, you're always manifesting. When we speak about alignment, energy, frequency, in order for you to pull something to you, recreate, design, whatever it is, You simply having the knowledge isn't enough.
Right.
Being in alignment requires you to get into alignment. You don't just automatically get there by doing nothing. So just as the principles and the laws, as above, so below.
Mm.
Real quick, spiritual priestess said it takes conscious action and effort daily. Yes, I agree 100%. But let's be realistic about veterans and let's be realistic about civilians. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the majority of the people that are living to this day are not conscious.
Mm.
So if you have to be conscious to do something, but the majority of the people are not conscious, because we could talk about consciousness. What consciousness is being here, right now, and present.
Mhm.
How many people are actually present in their own lives? We talk about this for years already.
Yeah, we have. We've been
I
talking
would
about this for
say
years.
that we I would change that.
Okay.
We are all conscious. What you're speaking about, Omega, is being aware. If you're alive, if you're breathing, if you're here, you are conscious. There's levels of consciousness which correlates to the levels of awareness. We are all conscious. A lot of us aren't aware when we're in the state of beings. But if you're alive, you are indeed conscious. We're
I,
just
I
not
like
aware of a lot of things.
I like that you said that, because in the physical, right? Something that's called homeostasis, right? That the body does most of these things on its own. You just have to
Correct.
maintain it. So that's not consciousness because it's already being done for you, right? Now this is where, watch this. So a heightened level of what's the word, entitlement. Most humans begin their false level of entitlement not appreciating that the body does so many things on its own. Like if you had to breathe on your own, would you survive? Because you said breathing is part of consciousness. I'm gonna push back a little on that, because you breathe without wanting to or not, unless you hold your breath, or unless you are underwater and you're a fish, you can't breathe underwater. So if the body doesn't do these things, that has nothing to do with consciousness. That's just science, right? So the only reason why I'm saying that is because how many people are aware but they make unconscious decisions?
Let Omega. Can we have a moment? Let's eat, Coach E. Let me and Omega have a moment.
Listen, the floor is yours. Have
I'm
fun.
doing this
So
on purpose so
listen,
that you can help people understand this. So use me as a guinea pig.
I know I'm gonna help you understand it,
Okay.
and I'm gonna help the other people understand. All of us understand it. That still is consciousness. What you're speaking about, breathing, we don't have to think about breathing. We don't have to tell our heart to beat, right? Those are correlated to the sub and unconscious. You're still conscious. So it's all consciousness, it's all awareness. There's just levels.
Mhm.
So can I piggyback off of that, Sister Venus? So we're speaking on paradigm, right? Our paradigm is based on habitual habits. Habitual habits, most of the things we do are habitual habits. Our paradigm is actually stored in our subconscious. And what is our paradigm? What are all those things in our subconscious? Well, you could say many times it is past experiences, negative, horrible, bad experiences, attempts of trying to do certain things and then failing. So many times, what's in our subconscious, what's in our paradigm, is failed attempts at trying to be successful at different things in life. So now we have become aware of our paradigm, and that's just the first step. Then we got to be able to go. Now we have to dig into our subconscious and do the process of reprogramming our paradigm to give it new commands, to create a new picture to replace the old picture that now creates new actions to give us different results. I'm gonna land my plane with that.
And
That makes sense.
that is correct. However, I think what a lot of people don't realize as of yet is that consciousness is different from the mind. So when we speak of the levels of conscious, your consciousness is a state of your state of being. It's the spirit and soul. And this is updated uh, quantum and neuroscience information. They're not one and the same, but they work in tangent together. So when we're dealing with consciousness in short terms, you're dealing. Hi, how are you? Oh, don't scare the kitty. It's a good kitty. Pardon me, y'all. So when we're dealing with consciousness, know that you're dealing with mental programs. You're dealing with, yes, your subconscious, but that is your supercomputer. Your consciousness is your soul, your spirit. Without going into the lesson, I would encourage us to understand that they are separate, yet they work together in tangent.
I agree. I agree 100%. And since we're going to say that there are different levels of consciousness, there is the unconscious, the subconscious, the preconscious, which I consider your perception. And your being conscious is your perspective, you know, you're being in the presence of who you really are, right? That has nothing to do with what you accept, what you believe, you know. At the lowest level is indoctrinated, right? It's the cultural curses, right? The subconscious is like your encyclopedia of your life. That's where all your bads, goods, fears, you know, we hide certain things in our subconscious because we're not ready to deal with it right now. So sometimes we have to backtrack into our life encyclopedia to pull out certain files. But the problem is that when you go into your subconscious, if you don't know what you're doing, you go and you pull out a file. Look, it looks like this. You go to pull out this file and you end up taking all of the files that are connected to it because you don't know how to go to the subconscious mind to retract. Now, I keep hearing people talking about resetting. But what most people are doing when they go to reset is that they reapplying.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? A reset.
Yeah.
Listen to what I'm saying. Can you ever reset if you're going? You can never go back to the same place you came from because you're going back with other elements, with more knowledge, with more skills, with more experiences. So, so is it a reset? Because a reset would mean going back to ground zero. Do we ever go back to ground zero? Or are we under the impression that that's what we're doing and all we're doing is recycling the reapplication of it?
I think is something that people try to do in their subconscious to put themselves in that state of ground zero, even though we know that we can't be in that state, be in that physical actual state of ground zero or that mental state of ground zero, because that really doesn't exist once you've learned the things that you've learned. You can try to put yourself in that mindset just to kind of learn new things, but that doesn't stop you. That doesn't alleviate the things that you've already taught yourself or learned in your experience.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about. The risk factor. Venus, help me explain this. The risk factor of traveling into your subconscious to pull, like when you're going to do the shadow work, right? And you're going to go visit that child, and you're going to tell that child, "Listen, it wasn't your fault," right? But the risk of going there, and the other things that you didn't account for that are attached to that scenario. Help me explain that, Venus.
Yes. Again, let's keep in mind that, we have different perspectives. That's one. However, in what you're saying, you're absolutely correct. There are risk factors in diving that deep. However, there's an intrinsic barrier that a lot of us who think we're doing inner work, shadow work, you're not. I respectfully say that you're not, because when you're diving that deep into your dominant mental programs, your motherboard, that's on a whole nother deeper level, and you cannot access that through the physical realm or the physical aspects of who you are. And so A lot of us, because we've been so forcefully fed, just do this shadow work, just do the meditation, just do all of those things. And that's not how it actually works. And I can tell because look at the state of being that the majority of the people on this planet are in.
Mm-hmm.
That is a clear indication, right? That a lot of these things that we don't yet know that is affecting us. You cannot just tap into your what some call the subconscious or unconscious just by saying I'm tapping in. It requires more than you closing your eyes. It requires more than sound bowls. It requires more than visualization. Those things are a part of it. However, the way your motherboard and your mental database is set up and secure, baby, top secret ain't even the word how you yourself can't even access it until you have the passcode. And you do not get the passcode in this 3D realm.
Mm-mm.
You-
It
you-
just doesn't happen. So there are risks. Just like people who practice spirituality, voodoo, all of these spiritual practices, baby, when you open certain doors and you're not prepared, that can destroy you in so many ways. So many.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you see how I did that, Teddy?
Yeah, but she's not lying. But she's
She's
not
not
lying.
lying. She's not.
She's not lying because so okay.
But then that goes back to the military question.
Mm-hmm.
What did she
Russia,
say?
Princess, welcome in.
What did she say a couple of times? When she went into the military, she asked herself, what did I get myself into?
Right.
That's a question that needs to be asked in general, right? But even more so when you're confronted with something that you're not familiar with, right? What is one of the reasons why people don't grow and they don't evolve, right? It's because their fear,
Yeah.
right, of opening those doors because they don't know what's on the other side to it. But what if you're placed in this situation that
Yeah.
it's not a volunteering situation, right? Like for
You don't really have a
instance,
choice.
right. So look, the reason why I said that is because of two words, right? The difference between honesty and being transparent, right? Being honest usually is a response, and being transparent is usually voluntary. Listen to what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same. It's a cause and effect, and Venus likes to use that a lot. The cause and effect to this. You have to understand the parameters of things before you get into it, and even knowing, having the knowledge, doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to work.
And it's a big lesson. It's a big tool and lesson as Venus be using the tools. There's a
Yeah.
lesson to that, right? Because in the military, you guys don't have the choice, right?
That's
There's
what
no
I'm
choice
saying. That's
in
what I'm saying.
regards to that, right? And for the people that are here, that are working on themselves, that are trying to be the better version of themselves, you guys have that choice. That's a choice that's offered to you, that's allowed to you to change and be the better version of yourself. They don't have that choice in the military. That's forced upon them. Think of it that way before you start making excuses on why you can't change. Just saying.
All I'm saying is that it's that much harder for people in the military. And we have people that are civilians, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are having an issue with this. Imagine adding that extra element.
What's going on, nephew? I see you.
Yes, that's very true. What I would say is that we indeed have choices, right? Um, no matter if you're in the military or not, because I could have made the choice to leave. I did not.
True story.
Right.
So at that time, I really didn't understand mental programming like I understand it now.
Right.
Started my journey and dive in real deep. So I was aware that I had a choice. However, when it comes to the point that you said, it becomes extremely difficult because the training is the training that they enforce, that they create upon soldiers is a level of manipulative mastery that that civilians don't get. And so when you have masters unjustly manipulating your psyche, it
Mhm.
becomes a lot harder to make the choices that you really want to make inside. Because a lot of us, we go into it, especially after that first tour. If you've ever done a tour overseas, we know it's like, hell no. Hell no. Hell to the no, no, no. Right? And just think about the amount of people, the amount of veterans and active service members who be like, you know what, I'm going on my second tour, third tour, right? That's a whole nother mastery level of mental programming. Because what you can't convince me is that men and women who even choose to go overseas and endure what we've endured, we will righteously, willy nilly just, you sign me up. Sign me up. I want to continue fighting for my life every day. I want to continue being in fear, not knowing when I'm going to wake up. I want to continue being a target. Who in their right mind, right? Like bringing sense into who in their right mind would do that. So the mastery in the programming, and we're being programmed, in the civilian world as well, but it's not as intense.
I was about to say that. I was about to say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't even compare.
No, it does not.
It doesn't even compare.
But baby, that first I said, hell no. It's like, yeah, we're gonna promote you. We're gonna give you this amount, but no, hell no.
So Sweet Tea asked you a question in the chat. She said, "Do you believe it can become an addiction?"
Oh, absolutely. It does. Not that it can become,
Will
it
be.
becomes
It will be.
strong addictions. It's not a matter of can it becomes strong addictions.
And the problem with that is that it's not that it will be. It could already be an addiction, and you're not even aware of it. Because
Right.
addictions, right? Addictions could only be treated is if you know about it, right? Most people right now in this panel and in the chat have some attachments and addictions that we're not even aware of, even at the highest level. What does that?
Right.
What does that say about the people that are full blown addicted to certain things and attached?
Right. So,
Nobody's immune to this, bro. Nobody.
Russian Princess asked you guys the same thing in the chat. So, since you guys are veterans, maybe I can answer that for her. Do you feel like people get brainwashed in the military or the army?
Absolutely.
Yeah, brainwash is another word for indoctrination.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But they have to in order to serve their purpose. You see, this is what I want you to understand as well.
They're all being we're all being brainwashed. As a soldier, everybody's being brainwashed. From the E0s, the E1s, to the chiefs, to the captains, to the commanders, baby. It isn't even them who is at the head of the brainwashing. And I hope y'all hear what I'm not saying on this live.
Oh yeah, we hear you, 100%.
We're all included in that. All of us.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wanted to shed light on, to like, not without saying it, right? We're saying it without saying it. It has nothing to do with the drill sergeants or the people that are actually in the field of doing the training or administering the training. That doesn't come from them.
They're following protocol.
They're doing their job.
Absolutely.
Well,
How many
quote
kings
unquote.
and queens is on the chessboard?
sheesh. Right.
Shit.
How many queens and kings is on the chessboard?
Shit.
Okay. Every other piece,
Mhm.
even the king and the queen, they still play their role because they're not even the ones in charge.
Oh, wow.
They're just the face of it.
Right.
Venus,
Everybody
here's
play their part, no matter to the lowest degree, to the highest degree. But I tell you what, every other piece besides the king and the queen
Mhm.
serves the purpose of the king and the queen. And then
Right.
the king and the queen serves its purpose of the chess game, the maker of the chess game, who just sits outside and just watch and commands.
Wow. Venus, what about this? Here's another perspective. You know how many people I know that scored extremely high on the entrance examination, the ASVAB, and still said, I could have done this. I could have had a very technical job that would have led to a government contract, because you sometimes, by just being in the military, you meet the right people and you get great jobs that pay a tremendous amount of money. I'm talking about you can retire even faster having fun after you retire from the service. I've had people that scored the highest that you can score in the ASVAB and still said, watch this, Teddy,
I'm listening.
I still want to fight. I still want to be on the front line.
Hmm. Dope heads, and I don't mean a narcotic. I mean the natural narcotic, dopamine.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I said because the dopamine level have to be something different.
I've met
Score
people
that
that are
high, to score
geniuses.
high, and then still wanna jump in the line of fire. That's a different level of. I
Let me
don't
let me
know.
let me let me say the sentence in a different way so that the people in the chat could understand this a little bit better. I've met geniuses that would have had the highest role in the military, during the military and after the military, that still chose to say, I want to be a grunt. I want to be in the infantry. I mean, to each his own, right? I'm not taking nothing away from them, right?
No, you're not. But truth is truth, right?
Come on. Not everybody can be a supervisor, right? We already discussed this a long time ago. Somebody got to work the factories, right? And if
Right.
we're talking real life, right? I'm gonna go backwards a little bit. And if we're talking real life, in school, the A students do not own the businesses. The C and the D students own the businesses, and they hire the A students. They hire the experts. Pay attention to what I'm saying, because this it's a different perspective when you see that, oh, I'm an A student, I'm an A student, I'm an A student. Usually an A student will work for somebody else because you're the one who's hired to have the expertise and the skill set they need in order to have a flourishing business. That hurt my head just saying that. It's not what it is. It's not what it appears to be. People, get in tune with your perception and your perspective, Before you offer unsolicited advice, get some facts, because what is the definition of an assumption? It's coming to a conclusion without the facts. And some of us are qualified because we have discernment, we have intuition, we have foresight. But we don't have enough of these people. Usually those people are quiet because they know better.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt to say too. But the truth is the truth. If we're going to keep it real, Venus, you want to talk on that, Venus, please?
It's listen. I hold true to this. Any person that have gained experiences in various different sectors would never be the one to raise their hand to lead.
Right.
Would never willingly just like me, choose me. Just to go into your point. Oh yeah, I got a zipper over my mouth, and this is when I'm hiding in the back of the classroom. Choose anybody but me.
Right.
And this to choose anybody but me are the ones who are divinely called, chosen, designated to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
And there are many of us, and there are many of the others, right? Even though we are interconnected, we're one and the same, all of that. But we will not just raise our hand and say, hey, choose me. Because let me tell you something. To stand in that position, it is so much more than I'm a leader, I'm a this, I'm a that. Because the decisions that you're going to have to make at some point, who do you choose? The people you're responsible for, or your mother, or your father,
Oh my God.
or your brother, or your child? Now, do you then turn them away? Because remember, you're responsible for a tribe. You're responsible for children. You're responsible for thousands of people. Make that decision and then raise your hand if you want to afterwards. But more than likely, something tells me that you will put your damn hand down and tie it somewhere that it can't be seen.
Right.
Not many are capable of that because the requirements, to whom much is given, greater is required.
Say that
Being
again.
responsible for true power, divine power, to have that type of authority means that you don't get to abuse your power. You don't get to abuse your authority,
There's
the
consequences
knowledge,
to
the
that.
information that you have, not even for your mother.
There's consequences to that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely, coach. Absolutely, love.
If there's one thing that people can take out of this conversation is look at how difficult it is for people that are civilians to speak up for themselves. Imagine how much more difficult it is for someone that's been indoctrinated to think that speaking up is weakness and is disrespectful. You cannot speak back to people in the military because you will be punished for it. So if you're in the military, you're not allowed to speak for yourself in most cases, right? So you get used to not speaking. So all I'm trying to do is make people aware. Yes, if you don't open your mouth, you won't get fed. But they need help because they've been taught not to speak. So it kind of is a contradiction if we're saying you must speak up if you want the help, but they've been taught to be quiet. And think about what I'm saying. You're not allowed to really express yourself when you're in the military the way people or civilians are. So civilians take it for granted, right? So if we're having this conversation, all we're trying to tell people is be aware that we may need to be influential to help people get help. We might need to be the motivation. We might need to be the person to encourage people to speak up for themselves. Venus, you said it yourself. If you don't speak up for yourself, somebody has to do it for you.
Right.
Absolutely. Help is always there. Help will always be present. Will always be present to give you that nudge, what you're talking about. Right? We won't and aren't able to cross the finish line for you, but we will cross it with you. We will journey with you.
Safe haven. Let's create a safe haven. Let's create a safe place for people to recognize that it's okay to ask for help. Let's promote the fact that sometimes you have to go against the grain in order to get help. You know, you understand what I'm saying? We always talk about our circles, right? The people that we surround ourselves with, that if you are in a circle that does not hold you accountable, will you be accountable? If you don't have to be accountable, and I'm not talking about us, in most cases, if you are not held accountable or you're not in a space that holds you accountable, will you be accountable unless you are encouraged to be accountable?
You go saying that bad word again.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up, Bob. This was tremendous. This is a great start. Venus, you got your shit together, Venus.
Absolutely. Okay.
Infinite gratitude. Listen, experience, being willing, you know. I stopped being afraid of the unknown a long time ago.
Huge.
Wait, but now do you embrace it? Now you look forward to it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'll let you guys give y'all closing before we shut down, and I'll do my little thing because this is for you guys, and I appreciate you guys. I really do. 'Cause this was amazing,
Yes.
We're just getting started.
and we're just getting started.
They're always amazing. So I'll go because I have something to do.
Mhm.
It's always amazing, always phenomenal. The nuances, the connections, the family, the love, the trust, the gratitude. It's all beautiful. Thank you, each and every beautiful soul, for sharing your most invaluable energy with us. It never goes unnoticed. And always infinite gratitude. I'm not even going to go to the whole spiel, but I am Venus Scott. I'm a self mastery mentor and educator. Been teaching for 15 plus years, and that's what I do every Thursday evening. I teach a mastery lesson, and there's tons of things that is coming up. But I had a wonderful time. It's always an honor to be amongst the greats. Ashe.
Sure. Amiga?
Veterans are our fathers, our sisters, our brothers, our friends, our neighbors, man. You know, they're not the same. They need a little bit more encouragement. They need a little bit more push to get the help that's necessary so that they can truly contribute to areas, you know, in modern society.
Absolutely.
And I think that we should stop frowning upon people that are homeless. It's not always their fault. It's not always something that they could understand. I mean, in their right mind, who chooses to be homeless? Yes, we've heard some stories where people say, you know what, I'm just going to be homeless. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I get that. But that's a very rare oddity, okay? No one here would like to know what it is to be a veteran that feels as though not only are ignored, but they don't have the ability to express themselves because they've been taught that that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
I don't want to impose on no one, but if it's okay, I'm going to do a small little quick prayer.
Yeah.
And if you're not into this, I respect your feelings on this, but if it's okay, Teddy, I'd like to just say a quick prayer.
Go right ahead, brother.
All right. The heavenly entity that is among us, please help us understand, please help us to be in a place where we can stop judging people without knowing the facts. Let's dig a little deeper and do a better job in understanding there are people that have stronger and more challenging things that they go through. You know, stay out of somebody else's pockets if you're not taking care of your own pocket and you're not ready to understand that we need help, but we can't do it alone. And one last thing I'm going to ask God, which nobody asks you, is how you doing? I know you got a lot on your plate, because if you're dealing with me and I got a lot on my plate, imagine all the other billions of people that you have to look over. Thank you so much, and I appreciate everything that you've given me to surround myself with these people that are open-minded, flexible, and ready to take the next challenge on. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. It's on you, brother.
It's been a day. It's been a day. Brain's kind of swirling a little bit. Just seeing things pop up on my screen. Because as I'm going through my stuff, I seen the last text message that popped up from my conversation with her. So, emotions a little bit all over the place. I haven't really dealt with it yet that she's gone. I've kind of been trying to suppressing it because I want to be able to get through this month effectively and be able to give you guys what's important or why this is important. If you were here, you see why this is important. If you stayed throughout the whole live, you see why this is important. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And if we're not willing to ask, we'll never know. This is why I don't mind being the person to take the brunt of this, to bring it to my platform, because most people are afraid to even have these type of conversations. They don't want to have these conversations. They're afraid what's going to come out of these conversations. I'm not afraid. I'm not scared of the unknown. I embrace it. I've never been scared of the unknown. Since I've learned about me, I've never been scared of the unknown. I want to face it with you guys so that way we can learn together. Don't be afraid to learn new things. Don't be afraid to be open-minded to learn new things. That's the only way we're gonna learn, is to be open-minded. That's the only way we're gonna be able to see different perspectives. and see what people are going through. There's real life shit going on in this world, man. And just because we don't experience it don't mean that it ain't happening. Just because it's not our experience or our family's experience don't mean that it's not happening. It's still happening. You just don't know about it.
Phew. I'll tell you this real quick. Join us next week when we get a different perspective from the people that have lived throughout someone that was in the military. There are people right now that are suffering because of the PTSD of the person that is going through the PTSD. Join us next week so you could hear a different perspective from the outside in of what this looks like, what this feels like, what they've done, what they can do, and so on and so on and so on.
And I just ask the Lord to watch over Tweet's family. Watch over her family, watch over her children. Um, Anybody that's here, I created a live event while they were talking. So there's a live event in my profile. If you want to go register for the live for next week, you can go ahead and do so. That way you can get a notification. Make sure you just add it to your calendar. But I pray the Lord watches over Tweet's family, her children, all her loved ones. Make sure that they are very well protected, and you give them the same love and energy that you provided Tweets to give us. Because she was a beautiful soul, and she gave us beautiful energy all the time, without even effortlessly, without trying effortlessly. She was just that. She was just a bulb of just great energy. If you could provide that to her children and protect them in the way that you protected her to provide us that energy, we appreciate that. And you can do all you can do in regards to that. Thank you. Amen. Go ahead, babe.
We encourage everybody that joined this week. I know we touched on families and spouses. Next week, the panel will be for them. So please, if you know anyone that is a family of the military or a spouse, please invite them to the live and encourage them to speak their story, because that brings awareness to that perspective as well. Because when you're joining the military, when you have a family or a spouse, they're paying their service as well. They have a big part in paying their service as well.
Mm-hmm.
They miss out on time. They miss out on memories. They miss out on a lot of different things. And it's important that we hear their stories to spread awareness. As much as the mental effects of the military affect the people that enlist, it also affects those around them. And like Warmika said, you don't realize that you lose the person that you once knew once they come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a huge toll on not only the person that enlisted, but the people that are around that person that enlisted. It's going to change their life forever. It's going to change the person you thought you once knew. So we want to hear that perspective so people gain a better understanding of exactly how much of a toll that can take on people. So again, we thank everyone that stayed in the chat. You guys just stayed in here and you provided so much support. And we really appreciate that, because that's what people need.
Absolutely.
They need that support. The numbers in here stayed steady, and you guys paid so much respect to the people that were up here that were sharing their stories that needed to be heard. So thank you to everybody that joined the panel. Thank you to everybody that stayed in the chat. Thank you to everybody that kept it respectful. This, and I wasn't here for the last one, I've only heard stories, but this isn't the way that it turned out last time. And for it to go this way I know that Omega and Coach E both appreciate that you guys were here and paid the respect that was due for this type of conversation.
Absolutely.
And it encouraged us to continue it for an entire month. Because that one time didn't go well didn't mean they weren't going to try again to have this conversation and shed the positive light on it that it needed to be shed on. So now, for the entire month, it's being spoken about, and I pray that it goes as it did today, because we know the company we keep is more than respectful for this conversation.
Absolutely.
So thank you all. I didn't want the chat to go unnoticed. You guys have been an essential part of this. The ear that you're lending is holding that hand of the people that needed to share their story and giving them the ability to. So we see you, we appreciate you, and we hope you'll join us next week.
One quick thing, Teddy, before you wrap it up. Thank you, sis. Always in such a eloquent and elegant fashion, she comes up here and just says a piece. We're also going to have a segment that, and Teddy doesn't know about this. Where we're going to have fun and funny military stories. But we're not going to tell you what it is because then you're going to just tune into that one and that one only. It could happen next week. It could happen the week after that, or it could be the last one. But if we tell you, then you're just going to come and have fun, and you're not going to get the serious part that's necessary for you. Because it's not fair for you to go through the fun part without being here to exercise and give respect to those that served our country. We need to do a better job. Get them, Teddy.
I'm here for it. Spiritual, I appreciate you. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being intentional about you and intentional about our veterans. I'm excited to see what next Saturday is going to bring. As Sweetie said, we tried this about 2.5 years ago, and it did not go so well. There were a lot of variables that played a role in that, but we're not going to dwell on it anymore because now that we've done this first episode, we know what's to come. We know the company that we keep, like she said. So I'm excited. Let's see what we bring. And I'm not as drained as I was before. Are you? Because I know we were drained that day. That day was draining. Okay? When I'm telling you it was draining, guys, and I'm gonna keep it all the way 1,000, I got off the app for 2 weeks. I got off the app for 2 weeks. I was just not wanting to do anything for the last 2 weeks.
Don't you remember that I went into a sleep mode for like 2 or 3 days?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
People
it wasn't the
don't
best
understand
experience.
that. They don't understand that it takes a lot to come up here and sit here and go through things, especially me, that these things are personal to me. These are things that I experience, and we don't just come off this app. Sometimes we got things to do, so we ain't got time. We got to get dressed and get out of here because there's other things that we get involved with. But sometimes we don't get a chance to process. Sometimes we get a chance to decompress. And then the other thing is that we don't eat while we're on this. And I get hungry around 11 o'clock. I start getting hangry. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm hungry now.
I'm
hungry
starving.
now.
I'm ready to go to your house. What you cooking? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up?
I'm hungry now, so I'm definitely gonna eat when I get off of here for sure. But I do appreciate everybody. You guys are truly amazing, honestly. And keep showing up. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep showing up for others. We're a village, and the village mentality, no matter how much people want to try to debunk the village mentality, it works. Okay, it works, and we are living proof that the village mentality works. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you that it doesn't work because we're living proof of it. We show it every day. NYM is a living proof that the village works. Like, you know what I'm saying? It works because whether we're on here or in the Discord, it works. So I appreciate all of yous. In a world full of negativity, make sure y'all choose love and love on purpose. Keep life simple. Love is the glue. Respect is the flavor. You dig, you dig, you dig. Make sure y'all live within your value energy. And I pity the fool who doesn't mind their mental. Peace.